welcome to EGI 2 stream number 3, and of course the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year. Wait, is it not showing? It's 2022. It's showing on the preview, but not in the program. Welcome to the EGI 2 because of the special occasion that we should be doing a previous year's Game of the Year awards here on EGI 2. Alan? Cut to Alan. So Alan, of course, you being Alan, the judicious. If you are a reporter on the street, we need you on the scene, Alan Resnick. We are doing the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards this evening live on twitch.tv/EGI_2. Alan? Okay. So which one of these is the live one? Great. Thank you. So I keep hitting the button, and the thing is not, there it is. It's sending it to preview, not to program. So that's great that that's happening. We're having already the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards is off to a fantastic start. And we are so happy to have special correspondent Alan Resnick here on the street with us to give us his analysis, his thoughts and hopes and updates about the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Great. All right, so we're going to have to keep moving along, but first I just want to give a quick shout out to the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards sponsor. Of course, that is Frame Grind. It is still no one else has reached out to sponsor us, so we are going to continue to be sponsored by Frame Grind until the time when the time does come that the sponsorship changes because of a monetary sponsor. We will be, until then, it will be sponsored by Frame Grind. So the famous Dreamcast game from Software with medieval mecha with it, and if you have ever had a coffee if this is an idea, this is just throwing it out here because we did get this idea from one of our producers here tonight, Mr. Luke Taylor. That is the twitch.tv/the Luke Man had a wonderful idea for a Frame Grind coffee called Frame Grind, and should we make that into a graphic right now? We don't have time to make it into the graphic. But if you can imagine, you go to your favorite Starbucks, you see the Frame Grind. It says Frame Grind, but you see the Frame Grind poster up on the wall of the coffee shop. It doesn't have to be a Starbucks. It could be one of those indie coffee shops like Caribou Coffee or Pete's. And you see the Frame Grind logo, and you say, "Excuse me, are you guys serving Frame Grind this morning?" And they say, "Yes. It's important that we do this because we are also Pete's Coffee. If you're listening, Pete's Coffee or Caribou Coffee, we are looking for sponsorships, and we were willing to do cross corporate sponsorships, so we could do potentially Frame Grind, Pete's Coffee, Caribou Coffee, and Frame Grind for a special roast here on EGI 2 live on Twitch for the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. So, Alan, now that we've got you here on the street here, let's go ahead and hear what you've got to say about EGI, the frame. Well, I think we should talk a little bit more about Frame Grinds, the coffee brew, or we could continue to talk about the 2022 Game of the Year Awards. I think whatever people are talking about on the street right now, with all this information laying out there for them. Just take it away, Alan. Okay, this just in, Alan Resnick has not shown up for work yet, so we will be going ahead and continuing on with the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. And as you know, because we do have a full stream for you tonight, a full 3 hours of content that is going to, a full 3 hours of unique content here on EGI 2 Stream 3, because it was the third stream, so we said, why don't we do 3 hours to celebrate the number 3? And not necessarily going to be doing that for all numbers headed in a linear way, headed forward, but to do three just felt like the right move, and that's what we're doing. So let's go ahead and get straight into the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Let's take it away right now. The EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards are here now. We have our first award given out this evening for a game that came out in 2022. Let's go ahead and see that up on the screen there. That most jumps, the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Award for most jumps goes to, of course, the first-person shooter Neon White. If you ever have been playing a game like Mirror's Edge, or if you've ever just wanted one of those first-person shooter games and wished it was more like jumping, or if you've ever done those crazy Quake speed runs where you just see a long sort of a track of a level, if you've ever hacked into a Quake thing with a mod, or maybe you downloaded something that you didn't know what it was and it turned out to be a Quake speedrun map, then you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that EGI 2 2022, the EGI 2 is proud of Neon White for the most jumps. Second award of the evening goes to, of course, the game that I thought was that ActRaiser game that wasn't ActRaiser Renaissance for a minute, and that is, of course, Soul Cresta. Soul Cresta wins the award for the game that I thought was the ActRaiser game that wasn't ActRaiser Renaissance for a minute. Now, if you remember, in 2022, there was a game called ActRaiser Renaissance, which was a remake of the ActRaiser game for the Super Nintendo that included both the action levels and the town building levels. But, of course, there was another game that was sort of like ActRaiser that was released by Sega, and I don't remember, and we have the name of the game that wasn't the ActRaiser Renaissance game, and we could put that, well, this one, every time I see Soul Cresta, I think to myself, is that ActRaiser Renaissance, or not the one that's ActRaiser Renaissance, but is a ActRaiser style game? And in fact, it is not. It's a first in a way. It's actually the second game I think that was this way, which was a Platinum Games top-down or side-scrolling shoot 'em up called Soul Cresta with a great storyline from Platinum Games. So congratulations to Soul Cresta for your EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards for being a game that we thought was an ActRaiser game, but was in fact a full-on different game from Platinum Games, and some kind of a side-scroller shoot 'em up with power-ups. We love to play them. If you're a fan of G. Darius or you're a fan of things like R-Type, then check out Soul Cresta. There's probably some more loading screens, and there's a little bit more depth to it now, since we're kind of coming at this moving on. We have another EGI 2. We have another EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year award to give out at this moment right now. Let's see it now. It's Most West. That's, of course, the Evil West game for the multiple platform system. There's many Wests these days. There's things like there's Evil West, there's Hard West, there's Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West, and of course coming out in 2023 there is Blood West. But we are talking, of course, about 2022, and therefore the Most West for that year goes to Evil West. Next up on our 2020 EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards is a game that I think a lot of people have been talking about, a game a lot of people have been thinking about, and that game is, of course, the game with the most bumps, which is Callisto Protocol for the PlayStation 5 and now also PC. Callisto Protocol was a game that you played in third person. It was a game by some of the people that made the original Dead Space series, and they said, Dead Space isn't enough for us. We're taking it to the next level. We're going to do Callisto Protocol with the entire. We're going to be bumping. We're going to bump. We're going to have so many bumps. We're going to have so many goddamn bumps, Alan. So next up is, of course, the EGI 2 2022. We have given our award for the most bumps to Callisto Protocol for 2022. So let's go ahead and give our next award, which is most holes. Most holes goes to Scorn. That is the atmospheric puzzle-solving first-person adventure and maybe action game. Does it have enough action to be considered an action adventure game, or is it simply an adventure game with the most holes? That's right. EGI 2 is proud to announce that the most holes in a game in 2022 goes to Scorn. So congratulations to the folks behind that particular. Also, here's the thing about Scorn is that it also has a lot of bumps. It has a lot of bumps. It has a lot of ridges. It has a lot of different textures. It's also very garnet. So if we were to give a EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year awards for most garnet and brown, I think we would go also with Scorn. Maybe there's some green in there too. Garnet, most EGI 2, this just in, EGI 2's Game of the Year award. The EGI 2's Game of the Year awards, EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year awards this is breaking news, goes to Scorn for not only the most holes, but also the most green, garnet, brown, and just kind of a weird silvery color, not quite pure silver, just kind of a rusty silver. Can silver rust? Breaking news: silver cannot rust. So that's just in main scene. EGI 2 is very proud to announce our next Game of the Year next award winner for the Game of the Year. It's not the Game of the Year, but it did win an award. Let's go ahead and see what's winning. Scorn has won for several things. Most chunks goes to Proteus. This is, of course, a first-person shooter game with a lot of heart and also a lot of chunks. They did something unique with the chunks that we have not seen in a Proteus game before, because it is the first Proteus game. But if you've never played Proteus, there's games that look like Proteus, of course, because it is a first-person shooter. There's games that look like Proteus, but it is not. But that's the first Proteus, and that Proteus game is Proteus, and it has, again, the most chunks. If you can't quite see what's going on here, you'll notice there's a lot of business happening in the screenshot that we chose for the award slide, and that is, of course, that it's because of all the chunks, it's very hard to discern exactly what's happening when you look at a still image of Proteus. So congratulations to Proteus, and we'll go on to our next award for the best use of consonants throughout the main story. That's, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a massive game with multiple characters, multiple main characters, huge open world exploration, a tighter combat system from the previous Xenoblade Chronicles games, but most importantly was the use of consonants throughout the game. So if you think about just looking at if you can imagine just all the consonants in the word Xenoblade Chronicles 3, then I think you have a pretty good idea of how many consonants you can expect throughout the rest of the game. It's a 60, 70 hour plus main storyline campaign, goes on forever. There's fantastic amounts of DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but for my money, this game stands out for one reason and one reason only, and that is, of course, the consonants. The consonants in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 are unparalleled, and we can only imagine that when Xenoblade Chronicles 4 comes out, or Xenoblade Chronicles X remade 4, then if Xenoblade Chronicles X came out for the Nintendo Switch in 2022, just perhaps it could have been the one with the use of the most consonants throughout the main story. Great. So, Xenoblade Chronicles, congratulations to you. Let's go on to our next. It's the wettest game. I saw people in the chat saying that Scorn was also a wet game, but for EGI 2's money, and then again, money that could be coming from a sponsor such as Frame Ride or any other sponsor that decides to give us money to be the sponsorship of the EGI 2 Stream 3, 4, and so forth and so on. You could be money for our money. The wettest game is, of course, Gotham Knights, a multi-platform game that says, what if we just got it all? What if we have it? What if it was all wet and all wet all the time? So if you've played any of the Alan, you're quite late, and I'm great. You did it. All right. So, Alan, we've gone
got it,
through.
Robby. The one you wanted, the Santa,
No, it's
Santa
supposed
Coke
it's
Zero.
Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew is, of course, the one of the things that's happening. It's happened. I don't know what it is. It's Mountain Dew. Apparently, you're supposed to take all the Mountain Dews that you can find on the kind of like in those kind of gutters and trash cans that you walk by on a daily basis. Bring them into the studio, show them off, and lots of things will happen, Alan.
My understanding was I thought you said Santa. I thought you said you wanted Santa Claus Coke Zero. I'm sorry, Robby. Back to you. I'm just happy to serve. I'm sorry to be late.
Very clearly said Mountain Dew. I very clearly said we'll be teching at 4:30 and going live at 5 o'clock. And I've just been dying.
I'm so sorry, Robby. A big shoot on me for messing that one up. So I think I will drink that, and back to you, Robby. And I do hear you, and I'm excited to hear about all the games that won awards.
So we've only gotten through some of the game. This is among other things that we're doing tonight, Alan, and you know this because we do have a lot of things happening. Despite despite the issues that you have been having in getting into the.
It was a hell of a time trying to find the studio and trying to find the soda you wanted, because I looked everywhere for that soda and they just had regular Coke Zero without the Santa.
Great. So this is breaking news. Alan the Resnick is in the studio. He is absolutely 100% in the studio. He is ready to give our. If we can just go back to the top of the Game of the Year awards.
What did I miss?
We've missed a lot. So let's just go ahead and go back to the top. So we have our first Game of the Year award goes to Neon White for the most jumps.
That's great. That is so exciting. Yay to Neon White.
So let's see what are people saying, Alan? When you're looking at the chat, you're looking at the street. You're running.
I am late. I'm not in the chat. So give me a second. I'm not in the chat. Back to you, Robby.
On the street, Alan, you're a correspondent. You need to be responding to what people are saying in the chat on the street about our EGI2 Game of the Year award for the most jumps, Neon White.
I wasn't here, and I apologize for that. I was just trying my best. Please don't be mad at me.
Okay, so we have we're gonna have to skip forward again to the wettest game. This is EGI2. This is breaking news. We have the EGI2's 2022 Game of the Year awards for the wettest game coming up, and that is, of course, Gotham Knights. Alan Resnick, take it away. We've got the wettest game.
The Wi-Fi password.
Gotham Knights.
Got it. Gotham Knights. Nope. Oh yeah, that worked. Back to you, Robby.
No, back to you, Alan. Back to you, Alan.
I'm so sorry. What am I doing?
Alan, people have said we've already had one measure of controversy. To have another is beyond the.
I'm in the chat. Can you guys hear me in the chat? Is the levels okay? I can't check the levels.
I feel like I'm kind of shut down emotionally.
I think a good healthy Christmas spirit soda might cheer up the mood in that chat.
Alan, what we need is, of course,
EGI2.
It's not Santa Claus. It's Mountain Dew. Tonight it's Mountain Dew. We have several different kinds of Mountain Dew.
I don't understand why.
Here. I don't know why either. Someone just said, "Put up Mountain Dew." We're doing the Mountain Dew. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what people are saying about Gotham Knights EGI2 2022 Game of the Year Awards wettest game?
Got it. People are saying about EGI Game of the Year 2022 Gotham Knights wettest game. Robby, we love you. Alan, we love you. I'm late, but I'm here for Christmas, says someone. Eraserhead Baby says, Alan, you're fucking everything up. Shit. Absurdity Man says, EGI2, Alan, EGI, Alan.
This is family
Bad
shows.
award. Joe Botnick says, we got Gotham Knights, and so what? That's what you wanted. You wanted to hear what they said about Gotham Knights.
Well, that's a wettest game, so we're also looking for your commentary about what that means going forward. This is the 2022 Game of the Year Awards.
The reason I am wet is because it was so hard to find the sponsored soda that sponsored EGI2, and I went to every store that sold soda, and they did have Mountain Dew. So if I knew that it was a Mountain Dew you were looking for, I would have just gotten Mountain Dew because every store had that. But only one store had the Santa soda that you wanted that has zero sugar.
Cut to Alan. Alan, what the hell are you talking about?
Trying my best to be a good employee and serve you and please you and pleasure you.
You're not an employee. Just because you work somewhere doesn't mean you're an employee.
I don't
To be an employee, you have to follow the schedule.
understand.
You have to you have to check your messages when I send you assignments.
I was driving, so I'm
And
trying to be safe.
Yep. And tonight, the one thing that I needed one of the two things I needed from you tonight was Mountain Dew and your special report.
I don't understand. I have the special report. I
All
don't
right,
understand.
so let's continue going on with the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Award. 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Wettest game goes to Gotham Knights. Congratulations. It's not a good game, but it is wet. So the best hard black lines between colors award goes to Card Shark, on multi-platform independent game published by, of course, Devolver Digital. Alan, what are people saying about Card Shark and those hard black lines between colors?
Joe Botnick says, congratulations to Card Shark.
So, Alan, what are
Hashtag
people saying
Fire
about
Alan
Card
is
Shark?
trending. Lines, lines, lines.
Okay, so what kind of a game is it? Alan, you need to be also leading people with the questions. You have to be telling people.
I can't type because the mic. This isn't the mic I normally use. And what happened to the mic I got you? I don't understand.
Alan, you need to be focused because we're talking about the best hard black lines between colors in a game in 2022 going to Card Shark.
Hoggy with 3 G's and 4 G's and 4 Y's is Card Shark. Not enough sharks in the game. Back is that what you want? I'm very excited to hear about all the awards and who's winning the awards. I just really want to please you and do a good job because this is
All right,
an
well,
opportunity.
moving on. We're
Sorry.
going to be moving on with our Game of the Year Awards 2022. Congratulations to Card Shark. Let's go on to our next award, which is a special award going out to best guess as to what this game is, the Anacrusis. Now, Alan, you're the Anacrusis. You're on the street. You're on the chat. What are people saying? What in the name of God is the Anacrusis? If it was Anacrusis, maybe I could. It's
give me a
got the
second.
word "the" in it. So is that the space? We see it. You see the Anacrusis? Is that the spaceship? Is that what is that?
Okay, I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to do a good job and please you.
So,
as an
breaking
employee.
news, Alan Resnick has all of the insights for Anacrusis here on EGI 2 Game of the Year Awards 2022. Take it away,
Okay.
Alan.
D_G says, I think it's a city builder, and there's a moon system. I hope that's what you wanted. It's I hope there's a hot alien, Titanic in space. People are saying it's Titanic in space. That's a comment from Hi Mike 9. Back to you,
Back
Robby.
to you,
and I
Alan.
can hear
The
you.
Game of the Year Award, best guess as to what this game is. Breaking news, the Game of the Year Awards for best guess as to what the game is. Anacrusis, we have no idea. Anacrusis, in the chat, Alan, check this out. Someone has just in the chat said what Anacrusis is. Get on that, report it. They've just handed you the news.
I will do it. I will read what you said, but if you can see the chat,
No,
I don't.
the chat went
I
away. You have
am
to
going
scroll
to.
up in the chat.
I'm scrolling. My question to you, just as a logistical question, as employee to employer in question, if you can see the chat, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, but I will read it because I will just read it. Dr.
They
Purple
put it in the chat for you.
5106.
You don't
I
even
got
have
it.
to look for it.
I see it. No, I see it. Dr. Purple. The Anacrusis is a 4-player cooperative first-person shooter set aboard a massive starship stranded on the edge of space. That's why people were saying Titanic in space. Team up with your friends in an infinitely replayable fight against alien hordes and unlock perks, weapons, and new ways to play so you can share with your team. The Anacrusis is launching in game previews in July 2022, and that does sound fun, so maybe you and Alan could play it. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan. Thank you for that insight. That was literally served to you on a platter. No.
That is okay.
So some of the chat. Game of the Year Awards 2022 must continue, however, Alan.
Frame
so let's go
Bride
ahead and check
fan,
out
69.
what people are saying. We saw what people said about Anacrusis. Let's go
Okay.
into our next Game of the Year Award, which is
Grand Theft Auto 6. No.
fewest appearances by Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Award goes to Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Now this was a difficult award to give out, Alan, because of course Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy did not appear in a lot of games in 2022.
They were in the one game I played.
Yes. So
Guardians
you
of the
imagine
Galaxy
that
game, I did play that. And they
what-
were in
what-
there.
And what did clinch it? What did clinch Kirby's? This is the Mountain Dew Spark Raspberry Lemonade flavor. So what did do it in for the EGI2 Game of the Year Awards 2022 for Kirby and the Forgotten Land is because there is what I felt what set it apart was that it felt like there was a slight chance that at some point the Guardians of the Galaxy might show up.
They didn't.
But importantly, they don't show up one bit. Thank you and congratulations to Kirby and the Forgotten Land for your award for fewest appearances by Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Moving on to the, and this is this is the game of the year for 2022 is Gloomwood early access. The early access build of Gloomwood on Steam. EGI2's
Big
Game
news.
of the Year Awards. Breaking news, the Game of the Year Awards for 2022 is, of course, Gloomwood, the early access first-person thief-style game for the PC, which is now playable. It's not verified, but it is playable on my Steam Deck, as well as anyone else who owns a Steam Deck or Steam Deck OLED for 2023. 2023.
Gloomsbrook.
So, let's go ahead and take some calls and see what people are saying about the EGI2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. But first, let's check in with Alan on the street.
I'm here on the street live for EGI_2, and I'm in the chat, and everyone is excited that you have a Steam Deck. A Stream Deck, excuse me.
I have a Steam Deck and a Stream Deck. There's two different decks, and I've got them both.
Okay, so you have both decks. Which one is that?
This is the Stream Deck, and the Steam Deck is, of course, at home. We will be using the Stream Deck for at some point in the future here on EGI, twitch.tv/EGI2. But Alan, what I really want to know is what people are saying about the Game of the Year for 2022, which is Gloomwood, the early access build of Gloomwood on the Nintendo Switch.
Please, if you're watching, sound off in the chat what you think about the 2022 Game of the Year Gloomwood that is in early access. Just sound off right in the chat so that Robby
We
can
do have a
not
phone.
yell
We
at
have
me.
a caller on the air here on the EGI2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Go ahead, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Robby, friend of the show, Cody from Florida.
What was that?
Hello?
Hello?
Friend of the show, Cody from Florida.
Cody from Florida. What? Again, you're from Fort Myers, is that right?
Yeah, you remembered.
So, Cody from Florida, what you've seen? We've given out every award that we have for the Game of the Year, Game of the Year Awards 2022. What are your thoughts, and what are you gonna say to Alan about his performance as a special correspondent for the 2022 Game of the Year Awards?
Well, first of all, can you hear me, Alan?
Yes, I can hear you.
So we can hear Alan. Of course, we did have some issues on the Tuesday night.
I can hear you.
December 5th, 2023, we did our first special episode of the spreadsheet, and Alan was, of course, we had a little bit of trouble with Alan's audio, Alan being able to speak directly to me, and therefore
Sorry about that.
the dynamic that we are used to seeing on the EGI2 channel was undercut somewhat, but we still got through the spreadsheet, didn't we, Alan?
Yeah, sorry about messing with the fine-tuned sort of comedic banter that we normally have. Back to you.
Back to you,
Well,
Cody.
well, first of all, I'm very disappointed. Yeah, I was very disappointed in that.
Shoot, I'm so sorry about that.
You're disappointed in the 2022 Game of the Year Awards?
No, this is going great so far.
Great.
Can I submit a contender for Game of the Years?
You can try, but 2022 already happened.
Okay. Oh, well, I have one. Okay. I just I bought Gungrave Gore on PlayStation 4.
Breaking news: Cody has purchased Gungrave Gore on the PlayStation 4. Go ahead and give us your thoughts on why this game should have been considered for the Game of the Year Awards 2022.
Okay, so I've played several hours of Gungrave Gore. I bought it for $15, but it was originally dropped for $49.99.
$49.99 down. That's a what's the percentage discount? That's a 30% discount. 33%, 25, 75, 80%.
50%.
No,
It seems like that.
15 from 49 is 30 something. So you got a $15 you spent on Gungrave Gore, and this is of course a Game of the Year. Could have been the Game of the Year 20. And how many hours did you spend playing it?
So I feel like I spent 2 5-hour sessions playing it.
2 5
And
hours?
I have a lot of nostalgia for Gungrave because it's a classic PS2 game produced by Sega.
Gungrave, if you ever had a coffin strapped to your back and had 2 guns in your hands, then and you've walked slowly and methodically down narrow corridors, Alan, just blasting that thing, and then taking the coffin off your back, swinging it around, knocking people back
For special attacks.
Special attacks.
So this new one, it was made by a Korean company. It's not made by Sega anymore. It's made. I have it already pulled up. It's made by a company called a South Korean.
Is not being developed by Sega anymore. It's being developed by a separate country in Korea.
Iggy Mob, a South Korean studio, Iggy Mob, in which you take the role of Grave, a gunslinger of resurrection and badass anti-hero of your dreams, mowing down tons of enemies in a gory ballet of bullets.
Thank you for that, and of course, it was not the 2022 Game of the Year Awards, Kobe. I'm sorry that for the disappointment. But the fact of the matter is that for 2022, the Game of the Year Award is still the early access build of Gloomwood. So thank you for your call, Cody. Let's go ahead and move on. We've got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. We've got a full 3 hours of content here tonight on EGI2. EGI underscore.
Back to you, Robby. Back to you, Robbie. Back to you, Alan.
And good luck again. If another Gungrave game comes out in future,
it's very grindy. It's very grindy. You have to grind a lot for experience points.
How many years? Gungrave has had how many games? Just
Gungrave 1, Gungrave Overdose, and the newest.
Overdose.
Oh, there's Gungrave VR. There's Gungrave VR, and then there's Gungrave Gore.
So those are at least. That's 4. Those are 3 more years that Gungrave could potentially take home the EGI. Take the EGI. Which one? This one? This one.
Hold it in
There's
your mouth.
Alan, are you the producer? No, you're the correspondent.
I don't understand
Alan,
my role on the show, but back to you, Robbie.
Back to you, Alan. And Gungrave Overdose could have. What's 2004?
Do you want to
3?
my soda?
Gungrave Overdose came in 2003. Am I right?
It was the second one. I feel like 2003 was the first one, and then
you don't know, Alan. Back to you, Alan, and thank you for your call, Cody. We're going to hang up on you now, and we're going to go ahead to our next segment. This is a brand new segment, breaking news, brand new segment. We have, of course, a new. Not only is this a video game show, a video game talk show, specifically talking about the years 2002 to 2011, with some deviations to other years such as 2022. Game of the Year Awards, but we are also I think most people would agree that this is also this is a comedy show. We have levity on the show, and so I wanted to share with you people and Alan. This is supposed to be a surprise.
Oh boy.
That we are going to have a new segment. This is breaking news. This is a brand new segment called Funny Video Game News. Funny Video Game News is a brand new segment.
Wow.
Every time we hear about funny video game news, we're just gonna have a little badge that comes up that just says, "Now that's funny video game news." So the first funny video game news that we've got here tonight is.
I love that.
The first funny video game news that we have tonight is about the. It's about the game Forspoken, and the funny video game news about Forspoken is, of course, that the people have spoken. Specifically, the people in high places, the newsmakers have spoken about Forspoken. Let's go to the next slide, and they say no thanks. So that's no.
I love that.
People, they say the game is called Forspoken, and what people said about Forspoken is no thanks. Right? It's of course coming from USA National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. If you've seen him on the news, if you've seen him on the Sunday shows, and you know that he's speaking about a lot of things, but here on the funny news,
Did you come up with that?
that's funny video. That's funny video.
Wow, Robby, that is so funny.
So, Alan, how are we feeling about the new segment?
I love it. It's hilarious.
I hope you're feeling good enough to show up on time.
I will try my hardest to do it, but there's a physical impossibility between you ask me to do a task that is impossible to accomplish in the time that you've given me. But I will try my best because I do want you to be happy, and I love the new segment. So congrats! Sound off in the comment in the chat because we get a big congrats to Robby for coming up with one of the funniest segments in EGI2 history. Back to you, Rob.
Back to you, Alan. Let's go. We do have more funny video game news. The next game to get the funny video game news treatment is, of course, Arcane's Redfall. Arcane's Redfall is, of course, the...
What the hell? I'm dying. Cut away from me when I'm laughing, because that is too good. Back to you, Robby. I'm dying. I'm dying on my feet.
Back to you, Alan. Of course, the funny video game news about Redfall comes to us from none other than UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who says, I'd rather fall rather than playing Redfall, is I think what he's trying to say. I'd rather fall back on old habits of playing early Arcane titles like Arx Fatalis. And that, of course, comes to us straight from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who's obviously taking time off from his extremely busy schedule, trying to
come up with this stuff. You are killing me tonight. I'm so happy to be back in the studio.
So glad that you decided to show up, Alan. Let's go ahead and see more funny video game news coming to you straight from none other than the Queen herself, the late Queen Elizabeth. The Queen Elizabeth, she was the Queen of England until she left the mortal coil and she shuffled along. We had a great deal of respect from her here. We had a great deal of respect for Queen Elizabeth from her time serving from the post-war era until the modern era.
The best we've ever had.
She many things about Queen Elizabeth that we do know is that she oversaw the dissolution, of course, of the British Empire, and all of that pertained good and mostly good.
Yep.
To see it dissipate. But what a life lived, and we must say that Queen Elizabeth, wherever you are, we have you on funny video game news.
She's awesome.
So let's see what video game news, funny
beautiful.
video game news Queen Elizabeth has for us this evening.
Okay.
Queen Elizabeth apparently before she shuffled off the mortal coil, she just said to her sons, to her two sons, one problematic and one now King Charles.
Oh right, King
of
Charles,
course,
and we salute him as well.
And all of her grandchildren and all of their grandchildren, all of her grandchildren, and to anyone else in maybe attendants, perhaps attendants.
Yes, there was that dog Eddie too.
Exactly, the dog. We do love the dogs here on Funny Video Game News. But breaking news, the funny video game news was that Queen Elizabeth looked up at the people around her, the people that loved her the most, the people that knew her better than anyone else on the planet Earth, and she said, my only regret is not knowing what the FAKK2 in heavy metal FAKK2, of course the PC third-person action game from the year 2000. She did not know what that acronym means. So,
rich.
And she had more to say.
Well, okay. What?
She had more to say.
Is that?
She had more to say, and she said, if I could just know exactly what FAKK2 2 in heavy metal FAKK2 means, then I could finally return to my creator with peace in my art. Well, guess what, Queen Elizabeth? This is funny video game news.
Funny.
This is the funniest one yet. And you're gonna, I think, when you see this, you may laugh so hard that you burst through the roof of your coffin and fly directly to the Anglican heaven from which you deserve to go.
Yes.
And a funny thing about
Lord.
Anglicanism, Alan, is that, of course, as you know, I am a baptized Episcopalian.
I did not know that.
So
I
as a baptized Episcopalian, I
Wow.
technically am part of the Anglican communion, and therefore the Queen Elizabeth was the head of my church.
So I didn't know you knew the Queen, and that she was there when you were baptized. So that's a big, that's a huge deal, and it is an honor just to even hear about it. I wish I could have been there while you got so wet in the pool.
Thank you, Alan. And the funny video game news continues because we have, of course, breaking news. The funny video game news for the Queen Elizabeth is the following: that the FAKK2 stands for Federation Assigned Ketogenic Kill Zone to the second level. So you think that the 2 in you think of the 2 in FAKK2, heavy metal FAKK2, would be it was the second game in the series,
That
heavy
was my
metal
thought.
FAKK.
That was my thought when you showed.
But in fact, it is in fact the second level. To the second level.
It's just the name of the second level.
Federation assigned
in the game.
Ketogenic Kill Zone to the second level.
Keto. And speaking of keto, the Coke Zero has got no sugar in it, so it is keto safe. So
We're not, Alan. Again, Mountain Dew.
And you already had soda when you got me to go out.
Of course, we are being sponsored again tonight by Frame Gride, a the DC meaning Dreamcast game from also the year 2000, I believe, the same year that brought us Federation assigned Ketogenic Kill Zone to the second level. Frame Gride is, of course, a arena mech combat game with medieval elements.
Frame Gride.
Made by the same people from Software who brought us all of the games from Software.
Elden Ring. Game of the year.
So let's go ahead and hit the phones, hit the jack it up.
Let me
Let's
check
jack it
the chat.
jack to the phones. Let's jack the phones up and main scene. Now that's funny video game news. Now, caller, you're on the air with EGI2. Where are you calling from? Who are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm Dominic. I'm calling from Pennsylvania, and I'm just calling to let you know that was the funniest video game news that I've ever heard.
EGI2 strives to bring funny video game news to the people from the source, which is, of course, the EGI2 newsroom, which is no joke, a true newsroom that has not only brought you the EGI2 2022 Game of the Year Award, Frame Gride, but also the funny video game news in the tab. And Dominic, what's your funny video game news? Let's take it away. Let's hear it.
So
I'll coach you a little bit, Dominic, because this is the way the funny video game news work, is that you take a small fact that you know about a video game, any video game in your library or any video game you've ever played in your life, and you have someone that's on the news say the fact about it.
Oh, I gotcha. So I heard that the president of the United States of America,
Mr. Joe
played-
Biden, the president of the United States,
Joe Bot.
Joe.
Dominic returned.
he was playing Half-Life 2, and
Biden, of
he
course,
was like,
the Amtrak Joe would have, I'm sure, loved the opening scene of Half-Life 2, where, of course, you're riding the metro into the City 17 station.
And not to step on what I think is a joke.
and
you could play
and he was
Half-Life 2 on the Steam Deck on the train.
confused because the ant lions were neither ants nor lions, and he was like, "How did I get here?"
That's funny video game news, Alan.
Oh my
I
god.
think that's funny video game news.
It's so funny.
Thank you,
Thank you
Dominic,
so
and
much.
we've got another caller on the line right now. Congratulations to you,
Thank
Dominic,
you,
for delivering
Dominic.
funny video game news. Next up, caller, you're on the air with
Thank
EGI2. We've done the 2022 Game of the Year awards.
Yeah, I've been watching. It's been great. This is Joe Botnick. I'm
Botnick
back
from the
on
UK.
the show.
Of course,
Joe Botnick staying up late watching EGI 2 on
I'm so sorry about the loss of Mrs. Elizabeth, but we have given her. We've sent her off, I think, with a very funny news from video game news from. We've sent the Queen off back to her creator with a very good set of facts about heavy metal FAKK2.
Absolutely, she was an avid gamer, and everyone in the country, all the gamers in the country, mourned her for a very long time when she passed. It was very sad.
You can only imagine what King Charles might have in the loaded up for his funny video game.
I think I have to imagine if King Charles had a joke, it would be, what did Crash Bandicoot see on his audio streaming app at the end of the year?
What did Crash Bandicoot? This is from King Charles now.
Charles said,
yes, this is what King Charles said.
King Charles said,
and
what did Crash? Okay.
What did Crash Bandicoot?
And it was Spotify warped. Because it's like wrapped.
Yeah, the third, warped.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, that's not really funny video game news as much as it's kind of. Is that a pun? Do we consider
it's a pun on? Yeah, it's not news. Well, it is news that the king said it. So, because no one else.
Breaking news that is unfortunately not funny video game news. It is a fantastic pun. It includes stuff. It includes the name Crash Bandicoot warped.
Spotify warped.
Which I believe is the third Crash Bandicoot game. And
kudos to Joe Botnick.
And absolutely kudos to Joe Botnick for lining up all of those tiles correctly and getting the explosion that happens when all the tiles are the same color. Unfortunately, this is the breaking news: is that the tiles were not video game news. In fact, it was a video game pun. So, if you want to try again, Joe Botnick, because we do know how early it is for you over there on the other side of the earth. Why don't you try to give us a fact about a game that you know a lot about, and say that it came from somebody else that is on the news? Say Mr. Sunak, Prime Minister Sunak, or maybe former Prime Minister Liz Truss.
Yes.
Or former Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
Say that, Joe.
And then David Cameron, now Foreign Secretary David Cameron. David Cameron said the following about Joe Botnick's favorite game.
Okay, Joe.
Boris Johnson said that Disco Elysium is set in a horrible dystopian world where capitalism rules, and he said, hey, that looks pretty good.
Robby?
Wait, which one? Who was it again?
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson said it. That's funny video game news. Oh.
Yes.
Oh, yes. You did it.
That's funny video game news.
That's funny video game news. Thank you so much for your call, Joe Botnick. Enjoy your
Thank
drive
you.
to work.
I'm cracking up over here.
Stop at a Predamanger and tell him EGI 2 sent
I absolutely
you.
will.
If Predamanger wanted to become the sponsor of the show and maybe even have a frame grind at their coffee counter, then we would do that for them.
I will pitch it to them. I'm going to go there tomorrow and I'm going to pitch this.
All right, thank you, Joe.
We'll get this going.
Good
Thank
luck
you so
with
much.
You. Hope
Thank
all
you,
your
Joe.
dreams come true. Thank you, Joe. We have another person
You
on
too.
there right now.
You killed me. I'm dying on my legs.
Thank you, Alan. I love you.
Back to you, Joe
Thank you,
Botnick.
Joe. Back to you,
And we have another caller coming on the line to give us. Let's do one more funny video game news brief.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air with.
The Electronic Gamer Person 2_2. Back to you.
Back to you, Alan. Back to you, caller. Who are you and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Em. I'm in Chicago.
Chicago, the Windy City that never sleeps. It's a classic American city.
Absolutely.
That's what they always say about Chicago.
That's so funny.
Chicago, of course, is the setting for so many wonderful games, from the recently re-released first-person shooter Kingpin to the third-person action-adventure open-world game Watch Dogs.
Yeah, I played both those games.
So, caller, we're talking about Chicago. We're talking about funny video game news. What's your funny video game news?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much. This funny video game news. This is the funniest video game news I've heard all month. Thank you so much.
Yay! They love the news, Robbie. You did really good, so everyone's happy and proud of you.
We see people in the chat are supporting Joe Botnick for giving us funny video game news and a pun. Joe Botnick, you did great, but now we've got the kid, the Chicago Kid.
Chicago Kid. I didn't.
Chicago Kid.
Chicago.
He's gonna ball us over with his funny video game news. Let's hear it.
And I'm ready to laugh.
Yeah, so I was just reading CNN, and apparently former Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel.
Yes, so good, so good.
She was saying that she's very confused about the credits on the 2003 PlayStation 2 JRPG Suikoden 3.
This is so good.
Because she was saying that, to her knowledge, Yoshitaka Murayama, the person who originated the series, was there for the production of the entire video game, but then he's not credited on the last game. But then apparently it's because he left about 3/4 of the way through production.
Let's hear it. Thank you for your call.
Yeah.
Let's move along.
Yeah.
We've got funny video game news. Let's do it.
Wow, Chicago!
Absolutely, the Chicago Kid
The comedy city,
knocks
Chicago,
the comeback
funny
kid
Chicago.
Chicago hits it out of the park, out of the white
Fenway
Fenway.
Park,
No,
Wrigley
that's not
Field.
Fenway.
No.
Fenway Field,
Crypto.com
whatever.
Arena,
We've
Chicago,
got
we got
Chicago.
it.
Chicago. We
Chicago,
hear the name Chicago. We think classic city. And now we think about that wonderful video game news. That's funny video game news from Angela Merkel.
Yay!
So, Alan, let's go ahead and cut the calls off for a little while
it
because,
off.
Alan, we do have a special report from Alan Resnick, from late correspondent Alan Resnick. Tonight we have a special report that you have prepared, I believe, on Shadow Squadron for the 32X.
Yes, let me get that. I do have a special report. This is an EGI exclusive. Do you have a button that does that? This is an EGI exclusive special report from Al. Special I am on the street. Shadow Squadron for the Sega 32X is a space combat game released in 1995. Developed by Sega, it aimed to showcase the enhanced capabilities of the 32X add-on. Correct me if I'm wrong. The game offers players an immersive 3D space combat experience featuring polygonal graphics, and engaging missions. Despite its technical achievements, Shadow Squadron received mixed reviews, with some praising its graphics.
Now, we're supposed to be seeing slides or something, some kind of imagery here.
This is more of an oral history.
Okay, so we're hearing in the chat that you need to speak up a little bit, and
Okay,
also
sorry
let's
about
bring in the media, the extra media you have to bolster of course, the special report.
I will. Where was I? Shoot, I messed up. Shoot.
Yeah, so
Despite its
Shadow
technology-
Squadron, of course, is a
Take it away, Robbie.
take it back to you, Alan. The space shooter Shadow Squadron for the 32X was one of the last Shadow Squadron games to come out on the 32X. Back to you, Alan.
Back to you. Despite its technical achievements, and sound off in the chat if I'm loud enough. Shadow Squadron received mixed reviews, with some praising its graphics and gameplay, while others criticizing its limited content.
Limited content.
I just report the facts.
What kind of limited content are we talking about? I mean, it was Shadow Squadron for the 32X. It was a off the rails space shooter that had not been seen before on the 32X. Of course, we did have a on the rails space shooter, being the Star Wars arcade for the 32X, but we did not have an off the rails shooter, which was Shadow Squadron.
Ultimately, the game remains a notable entry in the Sega 32X library, showcasing both the potential and the challenges of early 3D gaming on the platform. Back to you, Rob.
Back to you, Alan. It's Shadow Squadron report, of course, comes with some sort of multimedia, and we see the images of the Shadow Squadron.
Yes, but you talk while I get them loaded.
What?
You talk while I get them
Well, you have a slideshow. We play the slideshow.
loaded. load that into the machine.
Okay,
so
well,
I'm
you
just
got
have
to, if you're
find
going
it.
to, Shadow Squadron for the Sega 32X is, of course, a game that requires a great deal of visual aids to understand
Shadow
exactly what we're
Squadron for
talking
the
about.
32X.
Because it was early 3D polygonal graphic. I think it was one of the few games that ran primarily off the 32X hardware. I think maybe the backgrounds, the
You can cut to me, and that's what we're talking about. This is part of the imagery that goes along with the special report I did. That's what it looks like.
Okay, great. So that's the box art for Shadow Squadron 32X. Famously, Sega went for the cardboard boxes for the 32X games as opposed to the old plastic. I don't know if is that still considered a clamshell if it's not if it was a cartridge. And not, so let's go see ahead. Let's look at what we have here, Alan. What are we looking at here?
This was the base. This was one of the base missions where you take off in that red ring. You could probably see clear as day. Yeah, I think
now
you
is
fly
that
your ship
sort of a
through that
red
and get
ring, like
point.
kind of the maintenance crew is sort of checking the ship and looking at all the gigas and all the dials in your cockpit and making sure that the ship is going to fly safely?
I think so. And this is a different graphic too, even though it's quite similar. A lot of the game's graphics were similar, but it says autopilot here. Please select pilot mode, and you see that red ring is back there above what I think is a ship. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan. And of course, what are the missions? Why are we in the shadow? What is the Shadow Squadron doing? Why are we doing it?
I'll have to look into that, but this is another one of the. I believe it's a mission through the tunnel. I love this the funny comedy gaming news segments that you did. I'd love to hear another one of those. Let's just go. And I'm just checking with the chat. We have way less viewers than we've had in the past. The numbers are way down. So rate us. If you can do a hype train. I don't know how many subs we have. I don't know how to find that information out, but please please raid, and get a hype train going. And if we get enough subs, and if I figure out how to do it, I will be giving away the remaining sexual candle holder. One of the candles broke, but it is still quite an incredible. It's made of stone. It was originally 3D printed and cast in silicone. I make these myself, so there's some sort of art value to that object. Back to you, Robby, and thank you for the opportunity.
Back to you, Alan. And of course, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will continue the.
Does anyone know how to check subs? Sound off in the chat.
And of course, we are back with the EGI 2. This is EGI 2 Stream 3, and we have a very special. This is breaking news. We have a special event happening, and this is a special event, of course. After looking into how Twitch works, we realize that there is many people that come late to streams, Alan.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
So, what do we do? So there's a lot of people that come. A lot of people show up early for the streams, but people come in late for the streams as well, and they miss the content live on the stream. So we decided to do something a little bit. This is breaking news. We are going to be repeating the same content from the first half of the show, first section of the show, the first third of the show.
That is great because I did miss some of the.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get right into it with the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards.
Yay! I missed the bunch of it.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be doing the EGI 2's special 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Let's go ahead to the back of the slideshow. That's the EGI 2 2022 Awards. Alan, what are people saying in the chat about the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards?
Everyone is HMN Pernst says again. Iman says no way. Everyone's so excited, and I have some breaking news. Can you hit the breaking news? Button?
The breaking news button has been struck.
This is for my breaking news. This is different than. I would just say that I don't know how to check the subs, but I've been informed that we have over 200 subs.
We have over 200 subs, which means breaking news that if we get 1,000 subs, if we get 200, we got the 200 subs, but we also get 1,000 follows.
If we get 1,000
then we
follows.
Also get to. Alan will send you the candle holder.
I'll do that I'm doing it now. I'm sending it now. I don't.
Sending it.
Just
sending
for,
it
just
anyway.
for subs.
It's going to be just for the subs.
Just for the
apparently.
subs is what.
Well,
I
didn't get. I guess I don't really. I mean, who am I but just the host of the show who gets to decide exactly what causes things to happen? But I guess if you want to just go ahead and say that we don't have enough, we still don't have enough followers, and yet you're still going to send the candle out. I feel like I've compromised quite a bit about the candle, and now here you are undermining that.
I am very, very, very sorry. I misunderstood. I was under the impression that we were going for subs. And 200 subs, I said I'd give away the candle.
We said 1,000. The goals are very clearly on the front page of the EGI 2. EGI.
I don't really quite understand it. So
breaking news, Game of the Year Awards, EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. First award of the evening goes to most jumps. Neon White for the most jumps.
Yay!
So congratulations to Neon White. You've got you jump around, you run fast, I guess you're sliding under things, you're jumping over things, and you're kind of rolling and maybe sliding and grabbing onto ledges or maybe those swinging poles and swinging yourself across chasms. Alan,
it's so exciting to hear about the award that went to Neon White for these jumps.
Okay, going back to the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. The next award goes to the game that we thought was the ActRaiser game that wasn't ActRaiser Renaissance for a minute.
Wow. What is that?
It was not. Well, it's a shoot 'em up. It's a bullet hell style shooter from the people at Platinum Games. Of course, the people that brought us the wonderful Bayonetta series, Mad World. If you remember Mad World, World Gone Mad is the Mad World, and they brought us Soul Cresta as well. But the name Soul Cresta kind of sounds like another game that came out and maybe. It doesn't matter what it was not ActRaiser. It looked kind of like ActRaiser. It played like ActRaiser, but it wasn't ActRaiser, and that was of course established by the fact that ActRaiser Renaissance came out, and that was a ActRaiser remake of the first ActRaiser game, complete with all the action levels and all the town building levels. Alan?
Yeah, I did think it was the other one you said, but it turns out to be the other one. The one you won, which is good that it won. I'm glad about that.
So the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Award for a game that wasn't ActRaiser or ActRaiser Renaissance. It was Soul Cresta. It just had a similar name, I think, to a game that might have been somewhat ActRaiser-like.
Yeah, so I thought that was ActRaiser. Oh, I'm so.
Great. So next award goes to, of course, and you guessed it. Most West goes to Evil West, and that's not Hard West. It's not the Forbidden West. It's not the Blood West. It's just Evil West. It goes to Evil West for the most West. So next up, the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards goes to, and we see it on screen any moment now. Congratulations to Evil West and our sponsor, of course, Frame Gride. Frame Gride, of course, is still the sponsor of the show until we hear something different, perhaps from the good people at. The Game of the EGI 2 Game of the Year Award goes to most bumps, goes to Callisto Protocol. This is, of course, a horror action game coming to you from some of the people that made the Dead Space games. The first 3 Dead Space games, maybe the first 2 Dead Space games. I do believe that there is some controversy about Dead Space 3. But the most bumps, of course, goes to Callisto Protocol, and we are proud to say EGI 2 Game of the Year award, most bumps, goes to Callisto Protocol. Alan?
And a big apology to CGI 2 Watcher. If I banned you by accident, it's the chat bot said you were racist, but I didn't understand the message, and I maybe banned you. But if you were racist, I'm glad I banned you. Get out of here.
This is the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Next award goes to, of course, we've got the most bumps. Now we've got the most holes going to Scorn. Of course, the wonderful puzzle adventure action game with some action elements. You carry things around and you plug them into holes, Alan. And the holes are indeed bumpy, and they are indeed ridged, and in some cases wet. But in fact, the fact of the matter is that we have games that get awards for all of those things. But the one thing that I think Scorn has in spades is holes.
I think I'd like to get my hands on a copy of Scorn and maybe plug that into my gaming console and play Scorn all night. That does sound like an interesting game. I've never heard of it.
Sound off in the chat if there is a VR version of Scorn. I think we'd like to see a sort of a VR. Perhaps we would see a VR playthrough of Scorn live on EGI 2 someday in the future.
I would love to pop on one of those new headsets with incredible, ocular cavities and just explore the world of Scorn and just see what kind of messy holes I could get into.
Back to you, Alan. Next up is, of course, the game with the most chunks. Most chunks goes to Proteus. The first-person shooter game, Proteus, goes to the most chunks award goes to Proteus. This is, of course, a game that comes to us from the Humble Bundle Studio, publishing studio. The great people that brought us such games as Signalis and Moonscars and Alan.
Scorn.
No, not Scorn.
Prometheus.
So Alan, what are people saying in the chat about this is the second time we've done the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. This is, of course, for the people joining the show late.
Send off in the chat if you have anything to say about things that he said.
Nathan TR in the chat says Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire, of course, does not win any awards for the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards, and that could be in part of the fact that it came out in, I believe, 2020.
And people already know what won because you've said it once already.
Exactly. So this is what we're looking for, Alan. We're looking for is engagement. We're looking for content. We're looking for your analysis of what people are saying on the street, in the chat, and on the phones.
They're talking about the Nintendo DS. I don't really know what anyone is talking about.
Next up, of course, for the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards, award goes to the best use of consonants throughout the main story. I'm pretty sure we walked through this whole concept for a long time. It's Xenoblade Chronicles with a lot of consonants, 4 main characters. All imagine they have games like Zabar and Clockwork or something like that. So a lot of consonants in the Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Hello, you're on the air of the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards, reprised on twitch.tv.
Hello, this is Catherine from Philly.
Hey, Catherine from Philly. Philly is the Windy City that never sleeps. One of the few cities, Alan, and you'll appreciate this, one of the few cities...
Oh, what was that? Did the table just fall over? Oh, nope.
Oops.
Yep.
Big oops. Robby has...
Oh my God.
So I'm just gonna hold this up. This is the official #GameAwards broadcast, which is live right now. It seems like some sort of I think it's a Fortnite game. Well, Robby is.
I think yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
I'll talk. And what is the caller's name? And what does the caller want to talk to me about?
I'm Catherine from Philly. Alan, you said you'd played the Guardians of the Galaxy game. Is that true?
That's true. I played the Guardians of the Galaxy game, and it did have the Guardians of the Galaxy in it not from the movies though.
Are you? Yeah, I heard that. They're kind of strange, but are you kind of like a one game a year kind of guy? Is that kind of your deal?
I will play any game. I like games where you can romance the characters and kind of get close to the characters and just see, just go off with them. Back to you.
Yeah. I've seen you. Obviously you've discussed Gun Pixies in the past. This is an old thing, but I get it. Final Fantasy VII has, I think you can date Aerith or Tifa. I think for like a while. Right?
I don't know.
Anyway.
I'll have to take your word for it. Back to you. If you could date Tifa, that would be.
There's like a hidden affection stat, I think. But yeah, I don't know. There's like dating
EGI, electronic game information at gmail.com, and let me know how I can romance Tifa, because I am quite interested in sort of having experiences with Tifa. And I don't know where Robby
went. Yeah, wait. So Robby is just all right. I'm looking at the TV from like across the room so that there's not audio bleed. Robby is just gone? Robby's just somewhere else?
I don't know where Robby went. He knocked over the tables. I think he was quite mad. I think I think he's mad at me. I think I got in trouble.
Oh, no. All right. All right, we got to turn this around. Okay. What kind of what game are you looking forward to for 2020?
I think the whole
next
world
year?
is a buzz about Grand Theft Auto 6, and
I
I think that's kind of the big gaming news. I don't know why Robby didn't talk about that. It seems like kind of the thing a gaming-centric show should be kind of talking about all the time.
Also, Florida.
Are you going to play Grand Theft Auto 6?
I'm going to play it. My partner's from Florida, so we got to play it. They're from Miami specifically, so we got to play it.
And it takes place in Miami, and that's where Robby's from. So if I ever played Grand Theft Auto 6, I'd probably steal a car and visit Robby's childhood home and see what he's getting up to. Back to you, Robby. Yeah.
Is Robby back? Or we're just at the hopeful?
No.
Hopeful back to you, Robby. Yeah. We can just make, we could say it and just hope that it ends up working out where he shows up.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to me?
I'm good. Hopefully all y'all are good over there. Kind of seems like a kind of a situation. So
back to you, Alan. This is
yay,
breaking news. Breaking
Whoa.
news.
We're back. Hang up on the caller. Bye, Robby.
Bye.
Breaking news. Back to you, Alan.
I don't like doing that, Robby.
I did knock over the Mountain Dew that we were using to get the Mountain Dew bump, and we missed the call. Catherine from Philly.
We're talking about Grand Theft Auto 6. We're talking about trying to.
So what I was saying before, of course, was that, and I knocked it over. I cleaned it up. Grand Theft Auto 6 is, of course, not the EGI 2022 Game of the Year awards. Did not get any of the. It doesn't have the most bumps. It doesn't have the most. It doesn't have the most holes. It doesn't have the most consonants. Alan.
Yes. I'm so glad you're back, Robby. It was quite scary.
So that is the reason why, if you had been paying attention, Alan, we are not talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 on the EGI 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Not only would it not have won any of those awards in 2022, but it will not even it did not come out in 2022.
Right, of course. That makes total sense. Apologies for bringing that up. It's just what everyone is a buzz about, so I accidentally brought it up.
And just want to say a quick shout out to, of course, our tonight's EGI 2022 Game of the Year Awards sponsor, Frame Gride.
And I would like to do a quick shout out to the viewers of EGI 2 for watching EGI 2 on what is arguably gaming's biggest night, the actual gaming awards, which I just found out is going on right now.
What year are they doing?
What year they're doing? I'll check.
So, next award, of course, goes to you, and you guessed it. It's the wettest game, Gotham Knights. Next award to that goes to best hard black lines between colors. It's not. I don't know if this is considered cell shading, but in fact, it could be if that's running some kind of a 3D engine there for Card Shark. Next award goes to.
They're doing 2023.
Best game we figured out what Anacrusis and the Anacrusis, Alan.
They're doing Suicide Squad 2023. 2024.
So what did they say? Alan, what are we doing?
Twitch dropped tonight for those of you watching on Twitch.
I think they're talking about EGI 2.
Next expansion, right?
Yeah, we do. It's been 10 years for Warframe, so 10 years for you. We assumed we'd get a seniors discount of some time, just because our game is probably the oldest game here, maybe. But yeah, we have.
Going strong.
I know, it's because our community is so awesome, and we are going to be showing you the release date for our next major.
Alan, we're talking. This is EGI 2.
That's what they're talking
2022
about.
Game of the Year Awards. They're talking about Warblade, which was a game that I believe came out in 2000 and. This is a Digital Extremes, a live service game, third-person action game with a lot of different. You could mod your. Is frame? You can gride, Alan. You can. So, Alan, this just in. This is breaking news. Frame Gride and EGI 2 Game of the Year Awards 2022 sponsor Frame Gride and Warframe are both using frames, Alan.
Yes, this is a EGI exclusive. They're showing a preview of a brand new Frame Gride or Warframe game.
Frame Gride.
Now, so you're getting an exclusive look. This is just on EGI 2, I believe.
Exactly. So we're seeing, of course, live coverage of the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards here on EGI 2 2022, not the Video Game Awards 2023 that they are doing there on a different EGI. It's not, Alan, if you could go ahead and check in on the chat and see what people are saying about the Anacrusis, perhaps our next award. This just in. Our next award goes to, you guessed it, the fewest appearances by Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy award goes to Kirby and the Forgotten Land here. And this is, no one else is talking about this, Alan.
That's right. They're not talking. I'm watching the Real Game Awards, and they're not talking about this.
So no one else is talking about the fewest appearances by Guardians of the Galaxy. They are, in fact, talking about.
They're talking. I don't know what they're talking about.
They're talking. Well, if they aren't talking about this one, this is, and I'll walk it back because I'll walk back through it because, in fact, what the award for the fewest appearances by Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is that there are many games in 2022 that Guardians of the Galaxy did not appear in, and yet somehow the Kirby and the Forgotten Land ran away with the award.
D_G says, if anyone finds the Guardians of the Galaxy in that, I'm going to lose my mind. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan. Next up for the Video Game 2...
Careful with the table.
Video...
Please be careful. And a big shout out to the viewers who are sticking with us during the gaming's biggest night.
And of course, looking at the shout out to the viewers who are spending the evening looking at the 2022 Game of the Year Awards and not the 2023 Game of the Year Awards, which of course is happening live on the Video Game Awards channel, and which we will not be covering tonight because we are doing because this is EGI 2 and we will be doing 2022 on EGI 2 tonight. And perhaps we'll be doing other years and future streams, but tonight it's all 2022. Back to you, Alan.
And if anyone ever saw the old show, we'd have a big Game of the Year extravaganza back on when we had a big budget and big studio. We'd have these incredible Game of the Year marathon episodes that were so much fun. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan. Of course, the next Game of the Year award goes to the Game of the Year awards for 2022, Gloomwood. So let's go to the phones and see what people are saying about the 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Hello, caller. You're on the air with EGI 2. It's the 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Who are you calling? Who are you calling? Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Robby. It's Matt. I'm from L.A., Los Angeles.
Beautiful Los Angeles, California. The Christmas season is upon us here in the great city of angels.
Amen. Amen.
So where are your thoughts about the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards? It's the second time that we've given out the awards this evening because we wanted to make sure that the people that came in late to the stream saw the same content as the people that were here at the beginning of the stream.
That is so nice.
I think it's even sweeter the second time. I'm so glad you went back over all of the wonderful awards that we've already had.
Right.
I have something I wanted to bring up. Last time you were streaming, you were talking about Hades, the game Hades, and how wonderful it would be if somebody bought Hades while it was on sale on Steam.
Absolutely. We were talking about how a game like Hades, which I believe goes for Alan, and you're the Hades expert. You know the cost is around $24 or $29.99 when you get it, $24.99 or $29.99 if you were to buy it full price right now. But if it goes on sale for $14.99, which I believe it is on sale for $14.99 on some platforms, then you might as well pick it up because that is a good amount of game for that price. Wouldn't you say so, LA?
Matt, it's actually $12.49, so it's even better right now.
$12.49.99, Alan. That's absolutely 100%. If you're is it Steam or is it perhaps Humble Games or where do you find Hades for this incredible price? This just in breaking news: Hades is $12.49 on
Steam.
On Steam. So go ahead and open up the Steam app on your desktop computer, even if you have it on.
I'm purchasing it right now.
Absolutely. This just in, breaking news. We're getting a purchase of Hades on Steam live here on EG. This has never happened before. No one else is covering this right now. And here we have it live on EGI 2.
That's huge, and you only have to play that for 12 hours, and you're in Robbie's house.
12 hours and 49 cents,
49
Alan.
seconds.
Right there.
Alan, let's go ahead and take another call, see what people are saying about the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. We do love to hear about costs and hours and games that go for cheap, that go for a long time, hours spent playing. But what we really want to hear about is your thoughts about the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards.
And the Mountain Dew is just gone.
I'm loving the 2022 Game Awards. It's very informative. I love the categories. Definitely would not be getting the wettest game in the regular Game Awards, which is a big mistake, I think.
Caller, who are you? Where are you calling from?
Careful, Robbie.
This is Kat. I'm calling from Ithaca, New York.
Ithaca, New York. Kat calling from Ithaca, New York. You're saying that the Gotham Knights does not deserve to be the wettest game of 2022.
No. I absolutely agree. I think it should be the wettest game of 2022. I'm just saying, if I were watching the 2023 official Game Awards, they would not be talking about the wettest game, which is a terrible, terrible mistake. So I'm glad I'm watching this instead.
Thank you.
Great. So if you're checking in with us just now, we just did the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards for the second time of the evening. And Kat from Ithaca, New York, beautiful city, Ithaca, New York. Absolutely. They say, what do they say about Ithaca? It's
bridges.
Gorgeous. And is it bridges?
Ithaca bridges. Ithaca is bridges.
No, you were right. It was gorgeous, but gorgeous spelled Gorge.
It's also the Ithaca is.
I thought it was bridges.
No, it's gorgeous.
There's another definitely
one.
Gorgeous.
Keep Ithaca weird. Keep Ithaca thinking about wet games like Gotham Knights in 2022. Kat, if I could get your thoughts a little bit, Gotham Knights, of course, beat out a couple of other wet games for the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what those games might have been and what games you would have hoped would have been in the running for that particular award.
You're thinking about.
I see. Okay.
CGI Watcher.
Well,
CGI 2 Watcher. I didn't ban. It says Robbie's thinking about you to go back to you, Ithaca.
Back to you, Kat in Ithaca. Let's hear your thoughts and go.
Right. Okay. So the wettest game. This is a hard one. I do think Gotham Knights deserve the win, but just today I was playing this game called The Mysteries Under Lake Ophelia, and this was a very wet game. There's a big lake, and you spend the whole time fishing. A lot of water. I think it came out in 2021, not 2022, but I really liked the game, so I would have made it a competitor nonetheless.
And Kat, thank you so much for that. That sounds like a lovely game. If you could drop the name of the game into the chat so we could have a record of you saying it, because this is breaking news. Looking back at Alan, I think that we may have made a mistake in the 2022 Game of the Year Awards, is that by limiting it to games that came out in 2022.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so what people say to that?
People said yes.
So
yes,
if you just limit games to specific games to the 2022 Game of the Year awards to 2022, what games are you leaving out that could have been wettest game? Arkham Knight could have been the wettest game, but it went to another game that took place in that. It's a classic city, Alan, and it could have been It could have been Arkham Origins, for all we know.
Mossy Lump says Tales Noir is a very wet game. I don't know what that means.
Thank you
Risk
for that.
of Rain
Mossy.
2.
Risk of Rain 2 has rain, but it does not. I believe the Risk of Rain 2 it gets more lumped into the chunks category.
Sorry, Turbo Zorgo.
It's a chunky
I
game.
like that
It's
it
a
has
loud
rain in the
game.
name.
It's of course a roguelike. Kat, have you played any of the Risk of Rain games?
I have not played them, but the fact that rain is right there in the title is making me think that this might be a good choice too.
Well, this is what, and that of course that not coming out in 2022. Of course, did Risk of Rain 2 come out in 2022? Or Alan, you're the Risk of Rain expert. Let's hear it.
Yeah, Risk of Rain came out in 2022.
All right. So, Kat, before we let you go, let's get your thoughts on what we would like to be seeing. If you were going to be using your powers as the mythical Ithacan cat that you are, what would you say would be the 2021 Game of the Year award on EGI 2?
Oh, that is really difficult because I can't think of any other games that came out in 2021. So I'm going to say Mysteries Under Lake Ophelia is my 2021 Game of the Year
breaking
award
news,
pick.
Mysteries Under Lake Ophelia is in the running for the 2021 Game of the Year awards, Alan, and we did the 2021 Game of the Year awards once before. We did it live on stage at the beautiful Elysian Theater in Midtown Los Angeles. But maybe we could do with a repeat. In fact, we could be doing a repeat of it because we are doing the show. We're doing the 2022 year twice, and so to do it 2021 twice would be acceptable.
Breaking news: Robby said we might do the 2021 Game of the Year again.
So back to you, Kat. Thank you for your call. Let's go ahead and see what else people are saying about the 2022 Game of the Year awards.
Someone talked about
2021 Game of the Year awards, or if people want to talk about 2020.
Your pal Asher says, "Oh my gosh, wow." Scott in Balloon Land says, "RoboCop Rogue City. That's a new game."
Down the road from the John Sowden house. What is that, Alan?
Say it again.
You're from upstate New York. You know about all the houses.
Say it again.
Happy John Sowden?
Who said it?
Who said it?
Who said John Sowden?
Who said John Sowden?
Oh, down the road from John Sowden.
Down the road from the John Sowden house.
Says down the road from John Sowden.
Subnautica was not mentioned, of course, for the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year awards as wettest game because you're underwater so much that the difference between being dry and wet is not obvious.
HMNPRSN says Subnautica is the essence of wetness.
Right. So let's go ahead and take another call. Caller, you're on the air with the EGI 2 Game of the Year Awards 2022. What are your thoughts about Subnautica? If it counts as a wettest game because you spent so much time underwater that you might actually consider it sort of not dry but different.
Yeah. Subnautica's got to be way up there. There are a lot of underwater games. I'm not sure if they count as wet though, because most of those happen in like closed environments.
Absolutely,
they happen in like domes.
Right, domes. And in Subnautica, you're in sort of a suit, so you're not getting you're not getting that wet, Alan.
Yeah, and like I'm thinking of like Deep Fear now, right, where you do occasionally go in the water, but you're still like in a suit. It's not like a wet city.
And this is why, and you bring up an interesting point because this is why Deep Fear was not only was Deep Fear a game that came out in I believe 1997 or 1998, so would not necessarily have been eligible.
Yeah, it's not a 2022 pick.
2022 Game of the Year awards, but it is in fact I don't think it holds up in that way that the.
Give that another point of contact.
Sounds like there's something going on in the studio there.
The engine on which Deep Fear runs did not have the kind of what do you call it? A scattering of particle scattering, the reflective surfaces that you see in a game like Gotham Knights.
Oh yeah, it can't capture that. It can't capture that feeling of wetness and wet roads and sort of the wet air.
Ray tracing will show a puddle like nothing else in this world.
That is one of the cases where the graphics really do shine through. You get the ray tracing and the bloom, and it just looks wet.
Absolutely. Back to you. Who are we speaking to?
This is Gio from Texas. First time
from
caller.
What is a big state? Texas is, of course, a very big state. What part of Texas are we talking about?
Sort of the middle right-hand side of it.
Middle right-hand side. Galveston? No.
Dallas
right-hand
area.
side. Middle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Galveston.
Right where all the stuff is. Dallas.
DFW. DFW. They say a lot of things about... what game... Alan, you're the Dallas expert. What games, of course, have taken place in Dallas, Texas?
There's so many games that take place in Dallas, Texas. Too many to even name. I can't even. Too many come to mind.
Just one game, Alan. Just name one game that takes place in Dallas, Texas. Take it away. Back to you, Alan.
Alan, I'll give you
just
one.
One game.
There's at least one about the JFK assassination that happens very specifically just in Dallas.
That was what I was just thinking, the JFK game.
Or perhaps one of those Civil War real-time strategy games, Alan?
Yes, absolutely. And one of those games that takes data from the whole world. You know what I'm talking? They take volumetric data from the whole world, like Google Earth data, and you can
Flight
see
Sim.
the whole globe.
Flight
and that
Sim
would take place
is Texas.
Definitionally, you would be able to visit Dallas, Texas in a game like that, like Flight Simulator. Back to you, Dallas.
Back to you, Dallas, and we
I'd
are
love
back
to see
with the. Of course, thank you for your call. We have to keep moving on we have to keep repeating that we're going to go ahead and hit the same buttons that we hit before because we second time doing the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Now we will be doing the EGI 2 Funny video game news.
Yay! We're doing it again.
So let's go ahead to the top of the funny. That's
Robby,
funny video game news.
are you doing it twice?
We're gonna breaking news. We're doing funny video game news for the second time in the evening.
Wow.
Let's go ahead to the top of the funny video game news and take it away, Alan.
Okay, funny video games news. Forspoken is the funny video, and I just want to, if you're just tuning in, this is not a rerun. We're doing it twice, and we've lost.
We're doing
10
it, and
viewers.
why are we doing it twice?
2022 EGI 2.
EGI 2, exact. Well,
I think.
So we have been playing. We've been exploring the possibilities of the Twitch platform, and we have come to understand that a lot of people show up to the to EGI 2. People show up late to the streams. It's not like it was before, and so I've decided that we will attempt this evening, because it is this special evening, to do the stream, EGI 2 stream 3.
Doing it twice.
We're doing the same segments
and
twice.
We've lost viewers to the traditional Game of the Year award. So thanks for sticking around. And we're doing now. That's funny video game news.
And of course, because we are doing it the second time in the road, Alan, of course, will be bringing us the funny video game news. That same funny video game news that we did about an hour ago.
So this is the same news, but with a bit of an Alan twist. So let's just try that out. And this is me learning this, too, for the first time. And it's very funny video game news. Forspoken is in the news. Have you heard about this, folks? Have you heard about this? Forspoken is in the news. And a little thing I want to tell you about Forspoken is... It is that... have you heard about this? Have you seen this? Forspoken? Oh, Jake Sullivan. Jake Sullivan, the U.S. National Security Advisor, said no thanks.
No, so Al, the joke is that Forspoken.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Robby.
Forspoken has been spoken. Forspoken has been spoken for, and the speaking has been spoken for. Al, Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is speaking for Forspoken and says,
"No thanks. I got it. Oh wow. Okay, and you are the Forspoken expert, so but I'm glad to be taking the reins. So
Back to you, Alan. I am not the Forspoken expert because that Forspoken expert it would be the person
Jake
on the street,
Sullivan.
the analyst, the reporter on the street who would have been bringing us the cutting edge Forspoken news from the beginning of the funny news segment.
In case anyone's tuning in late, I have some funny Forspoken news. Forspoken is in the news. Have you heard about this?
Okay, so let's hear it again.
Have you heard about this? Forspoken is in the news, and Forspoken asked Jake Sullivan for
Forspoken has been spoken for.
I got it. Okay, Forspoken is in the news. Have you heard about this? Forspoken has been spoken for, and Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, says no thanks. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan. Now
pretty
that is funny video game news.
Now that
We'll
is
just
funny
say
video
that.
game news.
So coming at you live from the Forspoken headquarters, it's EGI 2's funny game of the year, funny game news. Alan, let's go on to our next funny game news.
Let's go on to our next funny game news is Redfall. And already laughing thinking about this. Have you heard about this game Redfall? It's from the makers of
Dishonored,
Dishonored
Arcane
and
Studios,
Arcane
people
Studio,
that
beloved
Arcs
studio.
makers of Arcs Fatalis, which will come into
Arcs
play
Fatalis.
when we do the joke. When we see the image from Redfall, which is of course the much maligned co-op shooter from the makers of Dishonored and Arcs Fatalis and Deathloop.
Yes, and UN Security General.
So we could
Antonio,
go back to the Redfall slide, and we say Redfall is in the news because UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has been caught on a hot mic saying,
here we go. He'd say, I'd rather fall back. It's hard to see the screen. I'd rather fall back on old habits of playing earlier arcane titles like Arc Fatalis. This is the UN Secretary.
This is the UN Secretary General, one of the most important individuals on the planet. He's got his hands in just about everything you can imagine when it comes to world events. And he's complaining that he would rather play the original arcane, the original arcade
Arc Fatalis.
Arcane's killer app, Arcs Fatalis or Fatalis. I'm not sure which one is it. What you say? You'd rather play that than the cutting edge Redfall, which of course was supposed to be their live service game.
That's right. Arcane is
their
dipping their
answer
toes
to games
into
like
the
Left 4 Dead or
games
Dead by Daylight or
the live
what have
service
you.
gaming, and they've fallen flat. But the
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
He's got his hand in many sticky pots, like a honey pot bear.
And you look at that. He's got that kind of a Pooh Bear kind of look to him. He looks soft on the outside, but I'm sure Antonio Guterres is just about as hard as hard can get.
And that's the thing with bears. They're cute and cuddly, but you don't want to get too close. And now that is funny game news.
And that is funny game news. And Alan, I'm pretty sure that anybody who is watching the EGI is watching the Video Game Awards live on the 2023 is missing out on all the funny video game news that we're sharing with the viewers here on the EGI2 channel. So if you like funny video game news, if you like previous years Game of the Year awards that might also include games from years that didn't come out the year of the Game of the Year awards, then please tell your friends, tell your family to like and subscribe, sub and send us.
I will say that I can almost guarantee they're not doing funny video game news on the real Game of the Year awards. And if you are in the Twitch chat for the real Game of the Year awards, tell them to raid us because we are desperate for viewers.
We're desperate to if you were to raid us, imagine that you were in the game Redfall, and you decided to imagine if everybody that is playing the game, the much maligned co-op shooter Redfall, rated everybody that was playing Arcs Fatalis. That's what we are looking for here on EGI2 tonight.
It is funny game.
Well, that's not funny.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is, Alan, we do have more funny video game news, and that is take it away, Alan, with the funny video game news that we have left on this wonderful evening that we'll never see an evening like this again. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between.
The Queen has fallen back, and
so what are the Queen? So we talked. Who is the Queen?
The Queen is the female matriarch of the British Empire. Hello.
So not the British Empire, but in fact the United Kingdom.
Okay.
So the United Kingdom, she is the
You know so
she
much.
no longer holds the Empress of India
No.
title, so you can't really quite say that she has the
keeping it.
empire moniker in the same way. Perhaps she does for some some island, Bermuda or St. Thomas or something like that. But the fact of the matter is that she was the queen. She was the mother of the nation.
And she passed it down
and
to
she
her son
passed
Niles.
and she passed away in
She passed away. She did pass away. I do remember.
in
hearing
2022.
with the
Right.
game. Let me tell the joke.
Right. So go ahead, take it away. Back to you, Alan.
Hey, have you heard about this? Our beloved Queen Mother, the Queen of the UK.
This just
has-
we should start with the breaking news. Breaking news.
breaking news, and the Queen has fallen, folks, and she has fallen. She is gone.
She is gone. The queen is no longer the queen. It is now King Charles.
And that is funny.
That's
game
not funny.
News.
That's a sad. Imagine your family mourning the loss of imagine your family mourning a great mother.
Yes, great mother, and she would love
Mother
all
to
her,
mother
mother
to
her
at least
kids, and
two
and
or
that dog Eddie.
So this just in funny video game news. That's funny video game news. What is the funny video game news regarding the former Queen of England?
I remember the former Queen of England, who has passed, and that's not a joke.
On her deathbed.
On her deathbed, she grabbed the nurse or doctor and grabbed their arm and said, "My only regret is not knowing what the FAKK2 in heavy metal FAKK2."
Which is, of
the
course, a
PC
third-person action game
the PC
for the PC.
from the year 2000.
And
What
this
it
just in,
means-
this breaking this
This is breaking news.
this is
There it is.
great. So what is interesting to me, Alan, and I think that you'll have a lot to say about this, and maybe other people in the chat on the street have something to say about this too. Was that there was another heavy metal game that came out before heavy metal FA2Ks 2 that 2K2
FAKK2.
FA2K2
And the Queen.
so that was heavy metal, of course.
on her
Heavy
deathbed,
metal
she said.
Geomatrix.
Yes, that is right.
So our Air Glow Angel just put a purple thing into the chat with a
100
number 100.
100
So
purple things
I'm
in the
guessing that's
chat.
100
Thank you so much.
100 subscriptions in one chat. Can you believe it, Alan?
Let's see. I can't quite tell what that was.
So let's go. We got to make sure that we get that Mountain Dew boost, Alan. So go ahead while I get the Mountain Dew in frame. We have 100 subs. Let's go ahead and hit that frame.
Okay, you hit.
Funny video game news.
Oh, yes.
Take it away, Alan.
The funny video game news of the day is in the British Empire. No, in the UK, the Queen has passed, and on her deathbed, she grabbed her son Charles and grabbed his wrist so tight. He said, "What is it, mother?" And she exclaimed, "This is her dying words. My only regret is not knowing what the FAKK2 in heavy metal FAKK2 means." Queen Elizabeth.
And if I could, Alan, take a second to explain to you exactly what the joke is, which is that this assumes, of course, that the Queen Elizabeth, the former Queen of the United Kingdom, had in fact played heavy metal Geomatrix on the Sega Dreamcast and PC.
Ah, yes, that is very funny to think about. The first time I heard this, I was dying. I was dying on my legs, standing up, cracking up, just hearing about this for the first time. Hearing it a second time with my lips saying the words, it was still quite funny, but I don't think I could ever match the comedic timing of Robby Rackleff. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan. So go ahead and knock out this. Everything is lined up for you. The funny video game news is there. That's funny video game news, Alan. Take us. We're in it, so take us out.
Okay, I will now say the next part. If I could just know exactly.
So this is the
what
second
that-
thing. This, Alan. This is the breaking. This is
punchline.
the second thing that the Queen was saying. So she said the first thing about heavy metal FAKK2, but we didn't. But the joke, of course, is that she needed to expand on her thoughts about why she was feeling the way she was feeling, so we understand her as a kind of a character, Alan. This is the motivation behind her telling somebody on her deathbed. I mean, she's just about to let go. She's about to. The spirit is about to leave the queen's body, and she's off to Valhalla or Ethereum or any other sort of afterlife that you can imagine.
Yes, a life well lived, and she's passing on from this realm to the next, and she's thinking about this is probably, she's a historical figure. They're going to write down what I say, and this is going to be in the history books. So she's grabbed her son Charles. She's got the dog Eddie on her lap.
Because she doesn't want to. She probably doesn't want to grab the other one.
No, she doesn't want to grab
Andy.
Yeah. So she says, and she said the other thing, which was kind of like the setup to the joke, and now this is the punchline. She says, if I could just know exactly what that means, then I could finally return to my creator with peace in my heart. Queen Elizabeth, and then she.
It's quite a thought, isn't it?
It is quite a beautiful thought, and I can only hope to be as eloquent on my deathbed. And if I could, I just paint a picture of how I would pass. I would be in bed. I would be in a big cozy bed, and it wouldn't be my mother or my father or any loved ones or Cheryl or anybody. It would be Robby holding my wrist, and he'd hold it so tight, and maybe he'd even just tell me some funny game news. I would crack up one last time, and then my eyes would roll back in my head, and I'd go into eternal slumber. And I'd like to think that in heaven, it's kind of like a multiplayer game where I'm doing couch co-op with Robby, and we both have guns, and we're just shooting everybody to death.
Perhaps Redfall.
Right, we could play a game, a Redfall
like
kind
Redfall,
of game,
but except
like
not
games
Redfall,
for service sort of game.
And then we could raid.
Please raid our
So
channel.
please, if you're playing Redfall, please raid EGI, twitch.tv/EGI_2. Back to you, Alan.
I can hear you. Is there more news?
So we've finished up the joke.
That was not the end of the joke?
No, there's one last slide for the funny video game news. That's funny video game news.
Okay, one last slide. If I could only just know exactly what... I already read that one. Federation assigned ketosis kill zone to the second level. And what's so funny about this, and I got this, Robby, don't worry. What's so funny about this is the queen assumed, and everyone in the kingdom assumed, the 2 meant it was like the second game in the series, when actually it meant second level.
But not the second game in a series of FAKK heavy metal games.
Yes, and so just
even though it was the second heavy metal third-person action game in a generation.
That's right. It was, but this referred to second level. So just sound off in the chat with laughing emojis. Do that laughing kind of crying emoji and paste that about 1 billion times, and just send that out. And tell your friends that this is a wonderful show. And even if they come in late to watch, they still get a full show.
You still get the full show, which means that, Alan, we will be, of course, coming back to you in a moment. But first, we are going to be taking calls about the funny video game news. Let's hear some more funny video game news from folks out there in TV land. Hello, you're on the air with EGI2. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Robby. It's Joe Botnick again. Sorry for calling twice.
Hey,
Hi. I just thought that since we're redoing the first hour, you might want me to say the jokes I did again.
Yes,
right, absolutely. Of course, and let's stick to the jokes.
People did come in late.
And of course, yeah, and go ahead. And I was going to say stick to the jokes and not the puns, but we are doing the whole show
warts and all.
Again, warts and all. So let's hear it.
Yeah, so my first failed joke was, what did Crash Bandicoot see when he looked at his audio streaming app at the end of the year, and that was Spotify Warped, but that wasn't funny. So then I said,
well, you didn't say it wasn't funny, Joe. It was just not funny video game news.
It wasn't funny video game news. It was.
It's true, but that's what I was.
And of course, coming from a Britainer like yourself, that it would be after seeing all of this funny video game news about the Queen, we would hope that your affection for the grand old lady herself would bleed into your ability to give us funny video game news, perhaps from, of course, that lonely island, England.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then I moved on in that spirit to when Boris Johnson played Disco Elysium and he saw it was a capitalist nightmare, he said, that looks pretty good. And then that was funny video game news from
so
Boris
funny.
Johnson.
Now, what
Yay!
Boris Johnson, of
Hit the
course,
bu- hit the
gets
bu-
it.
yay!
Gets it. That is funny video game news.
That
Boris
is-
Johnson gets a lot of flack these days, of course, having stepped down from his role as prime minister and
Did you come up with
Thank you for the
without
slide.
without a clear line of succession, ready for the Tories to, of course, elect a replacement.
And if you are in the UK,
So
next
maybe
year
there's
there's an
some
election,
funny
just write
video
in
game.
Robbie's
Maybe some
name.
funny video game news about that.
Yeah. So when the Tory party played Metal Gear Solid and they saw all of the clones of Big Boss, they were like, "Hey, let's replace Boris Johnson with Liquid Johnson," and that was Liz Truss.
Yeah, that's funny video game
It's
news.
funny video game.
Is that fu- yeah.
Thank you for your call.
That was
Thank
funny,
you for
but you didn't
sticking
say
with the
that the
show
last
and
time.
giving us another. If you watched the show the first time and you happened to watch the show the second time, then you actually just saw something that you didn't see before, and that was Joe Botnick giving that great
yes.
singer at the line of succession to the highest office, the 10 Downing Street office in London,
Exactly.
in England.
Just a little benefit
Can
if you watch the show twice. You get that.
Yeah.
Joe,
Can
if
I
you're
just
about
say
to, if you're about to hit us with another round of video game news, I'm skeptical, but I'm willing to let it happen.
I wasn't. I'm tapped, but I just wanted to say thank you for doing the show a little bit earlier than usual for the international callers. It really helps. It's still quite late, but I'm really thankful that I can be a little bit more awake for you.
It's
What time is
It's
it?
8 hours,
It's,
right? It's 8 hours
it's
difference.
yes, 3 a.m. almost, but still,
Good God.
What a good reason to stay
What
up.
yeah, absolutely. To
Absolutely.
let us give us your views of funny video game news. The newsmakers, I think, will return with more funny. I think funny video. I think this is a hit, Alan.
Absolutely.
Joe,
it's
I love it.
Wonderful.
All right, so
Thank you, Joe.
we'll be looking again for your calls,
Friend of the
Joe, at 3 in the morning.
Thank you.
Thank you so
to
much.
Give us, what the newsmakers are saying about video games, the funny video game news here on EGI too. So let's go ahead and keep it moving, Alan. We have a special.
Back to-
This just breaking news. Breaking news. This just in a special report on the 32X space combat space combat game.
Absolutely.
Shadow Squadron on the Shadow Squadron 32X.
Whoa. This is Alan Resnick, special correspondent for EGI_2.
Back to you, Joe Botnick.
No. Back to Al. I think Joe's gone. Shadow Squadron is an opus within the Sega 32X gaming over. How do you? I don't know how to say that.
Over.
Over emerges as a celestial paragon of space combat, unfurling its wings in the luminous expanse of 1995, forged by the skilled artisans at Sega. This interstellar
Of course,
masterpiece.
it was Alan. It was published by Sega, but and if it was developed at Sega, then it would have been one of the specialty development teams like Blue Sky.
Yeah, that. I think I said that. Where was I? The interstellar masterpiece sought to harness the celestial power of the 32X add-on, beckoning players into a transcendent odyssey of polygonal grandeur. Okay. Beholden to the gravitational pull of technological innovation, Shadow
Show it
Squadron.
to the camera.
What?
Show it to the camera.
I don't. Did they
We've
sponsor
tagged.
the show?
We should have tagged Shadow Squadron in.
Shadow
So
Squadron.
if Shadow Squadron is tagged, and if Mountain Dew is looking for Shadow Squadron content, they're going to see that we're doing Mountain Dew content as well as Shadow Squadron content, and that's going to give us the lift.
I hate this stuff. Here, it's got 62 grams of carbs, and it includes 62 grams of added sugar. That's 123% of the daily recommended sugar content. And it's high fructose corn syrup, and it's disgusting.
Okay, so Shadow Squadron 32X is a...
Okay,
And people want to know these things. Alan.
I was reading about that. Beholden to the gravitational pull of the technological innovation, Shadow Squadron bestowed upon its audience a mesmerizing tapestry of three-dimensional opulence, where polygons dance in a celestial harmony to weave the fabric of an otherworldly spectacle. The visage of cosmic realms.
Or is it visage?
It's visage. The visage of cosmic realms.
And that
was
kind of, Alan, of course, that reminds me, when you say visage, that reminds me of Vambrace.
Oh yes, absolutely. The visual it does remind me of Vamp Race as well. So thank you for bringing that up in my report. Cosmic Realms was rendered in a symphony of digital artistry, a testament to the graphical prowess of the 32X augmentation. Embarking upon the cosmic stage, players found themselves ensconced in the cockpit of a futuristic spacecraft traversing the astral seas in pursuit of an immersive mission. The gameplay, a cosmic ballet of precision and strategy, drew accolades for its dynamic engagement transcending the terrestrial boundaries of conventional gaming. Yet, even within the Celestial Majesty, Shadow Squadron did not elude the scrutiny of terrestrial critics. Some ensnared by the gravitational pull of unmet expectations.
Unmet expectations. Unmet expectations.
It did not meet expectations.
It did not meet the expectations, Alan.
Lamented the limited astral vistas and quested for more expansive cosmic odyssey. The dichotomy of opinions amongst critics cast a shadow upon the luminescent caverns of this intergalactic saga.
Back to you, Alan.
The annals of the Sega 32 the annals, excuse me. Shadow Squadron stands as both a celestial beacon and a celestial enigma, a chocobo. I'll skip that one. Testament to the dualities inherent in pioneering the cosmos of three-dimensional gaming. Its legacy, a celestial. They say celestial. I mean, I say celestial a lot. A celestial conjunction of praise and critique echoes through the cosmic corridors of gaming history, forever imprinted in the stardust of Sega's Celestial Odyssey. Back to you, Robby.
Thank you for that special report. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, it's going to be It's the Arts. How many? All right. Okay. So just breaking news. We did get breaking news. We did get some new viewers into the stream in the last few minutes. So we will be, in fact, for the keeping in the spirit of EGI 2 Stream 3, we will be repeating the same content from the first section of the show right now. So let's go ahead and dive right back into the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Alan, what are people saying about the chat? Are people excited about to go back through the same three segments that we have done previously, but we're going to be doing it as quickly as possible so we can get to It's the Arts.
Okay, people really want It's the Arts. I'm seeing It's the Arts people are talking about It's the Arts.
We will be doing It's the Arts, but we will first we'll have to be doing this breaking news. We have to keep it consistent. We have to keep it consistent to the people. So this is EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Let's go ahead and just get through these as quickly as possible so we can get to It's the Arts. EGI 2 2020 most jumps goes to Neon Whites. Most game that I thought was an ActRaiser game that wasn't ActRaiser. It was Soul Cresta. Of course, Platinum Games Soul Cresta gets the award for most West is Evil West. If you're looking for more West, you can go to EGI 2023's most West game could be, in fact, Blood West, but in 2022 it was Evil West. Most bumps goes to Callisto Protocol. Bumpy game. Most holes goes to Scorn. Scored game. Scoring a lot of bumps, but also a lot of holes goes to most chunks. Proteus. First-person shooter game with a lot of chunky looking. We have the consonants throughout the main story. A lot of letters, but mostly consonants. Goes to Wettest game. Gotham Knights. Going on to Alan. Best hard black lines between colors. So it's Card Shark. Best game. So we know what that is now. So it doesn't get the award is withdrawn. Fewest appearance by Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy goes to Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And the Game of the Year award goes to Gloomwood, the early access build of Gloomwood for 2022 Game of the Year. Alan.
Yay!
What are people saying about the EGI 2 2022? Let's go to the phone calls and get some quick thoughts about the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards.
Okay, you're on the air with the electronic game information if you're calling in right now. You're on the air. And tell us about
okay. This is Pat from Ithaca again. Since we're repeating everything, I'm just
Game of the Year Awards. We told all the same. We're doing all the same jokes all over again for the third time on EGI 2 Stream 3. Let's hear your thoughts about the Game Awards and not what we're doing.
Right, so my thoughts, just to recap again what my thoughts were, I think Gotham Knights deserve that win for Wettest game, but I do think that the 2021 Game of the Year was Mysteries Under Lake Ophelia. Thank you very much.
Mysteries Under Lake Ophelia, thank you for your call. Let's go back and let's hit the phones, hang up on that one, and go to the next call, which is, of course, going to be someone who's going to give us their thoughts on the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. We only have a few seconds remaining of this section because we do have to get to It's the Arts, so let's hear from the caller.
No one's calling in.
No one's calling in. No one wants to talk about EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards, so that means that we're caller on the air with the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Let's hear your thoughts.
Hello.
This is the third time we've done the thing. So in fact, if you've been watching it from the beginning, then you've had plenty of time to think about what to say. Let's hear what you got to say.
So, I don't have many thoughts in general, but I do like Rain World. I don't know when it was made.
Rain World could have been the wettest game. I don't know what year that Rain World came out. I feel like it was probably around the 2016, 2017 game, but that doesn't mean it couldn't have won a Game of the Year wettest game for 2022. It just didn't.
I think it's a great game. I don't know. I've been playing it for 3 years straight, and I just learned how to read in that game. And it's so fucked up. Hi, Alan.
Oh, hey. I don't know. I didn't know you could see me.
Great.
Yeah,
thank you for your call. Let's go ahead.
Have a
good
good
keep
evening.
the show moving along. Rain World,
so
of
much.
course, is in the running for 3 years ago, 23 years ago. Would be, of course, 20 could be a wet game for another year, Alan. So, funny video game news. This just in breaking news. We are doing a new thing called Funny. Now that's funny video game news. It's got the word "now" in it. The funny video games news. We go back to the beginning of the funny video game news segment. That we can go ahead and start. And Alan took it last time, so I'll take it this time. Funny video game news.
You do it so good.
Going right now, which is, of course, the Forspoken. Forspoken has been spoken for, and what the Forspoken has been focused for by current National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says no thanks. So going on to the next funny video game news is Redfall. Redfall, the much maligned 4-person co-op shoot 'em up game. You go to a different world, and there's vampires, and you shoot them up. And Antonio Guterres from the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, "I'd rather fall rather than red fall. I'd rather fall back on the old habits of playing early arcane titles like Arx Fatalis." Thank you so much for your service, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Go on to the next funny video game news. It's the Queen of England. She's the former Queen of England, has left a big hole in all of our hearts worldwide, and she had this to say on her deathbed. She said, my only regret after overseeing the dissolution of most of the British Empire was that I never learned what the FAKK2 in heavy metal FAKK2 meant." And she went on to say, of course, that she went on to say that the funny video game news would, if I could just know exactly what FAKK2 means, then I could finally return to my creator with peace in my heart. Well, guess what, Queen Elizabeth? You can go to deadbed tonight with peace in your heart, because FAKK2 means this. Federation assigned ketogenic kill zone to the second level.
Yes. Good night, my sweet lady. That's what it means.
Back to you, Alan. Let's go ahead and take a quick call to hear what
Robbie.
people are saying about the funny video game news. Joe Botnick,
Robbie,
take it away.
No, this is Dominic from earlier. I didn't get him the second time.
So
I got him the first time. I didn't get the second time.
Right. Okay.
But Joe Biden said about Half-Life 2 that he was confused.
This is great. I thought it was Boris Johnson.
No one else is doing this, Al. No one else.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I got hung up on. Joe Biden said about Half-Life 2 that he was confused about ant lions because they were neither ants nor lions.
And that was the funniest. And then I said, the funny thing about Amtrak Joe is that he probably would really enjoy, if he was to sit down and play through Half-Life 2, he would enjoy that first section when you're on the metro heading
about the Amtrak, yeah.
Right.
And then I said you could play it on your new Steam Deck on the train. That's what I said.
Right.
I didn't say it the second time. I said it the first
time. So, Dominic, thank you for your call. We'll be looking for you in future funny video game news for new funny video game news, but tonight was the third time we did the same funny video game news.
Okay, should I tell my jokes again really quick?
Yes, absolutely. Joe Botnick, you're back. Joe Botnick's back live here on EGI2. Take it away, Joe.
Okay, so with Crash Bandicoot, when he was on his audio streaming app at the end of the year, it was Spotify Warped. That's not funny, but it was funny, but it's not. But it's not news.
Game is of course Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. Is it just Warped? Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Keep going.
I'm not sure. And then when Boris Johnson played Disco Elysium and he saw it was Capitalist Nightmare, he was like, "That looks pretty good," and that is funny video game news.
And then exactly, and that was funny video game news. Exactly, funny. That's funny video game news. And then we also we kept you online for a second more to talk about Boris Johnson's succession.
Exactly.
Football.
It was the Tory party, and they were looking to replace Boris Johnson, so they played Metal Gear Solid, and they saw the clones of Big Boss, so they said, "Let's clone Boris Johnson," and it was Liquid Johnson, and that was Liz Truss, and that's funny video game news.
Johnson.
Incredible.
Incredible news. Joe Botnick, go to bed.
I'm going to bed.
Way too late. It's psychotic what you do.
I'm really sorry. I'm going to go now.
Bye-bye.
Back to you, Robbie.
Happy Christmas. So,
back to you, Alan.
Let's go ahead and hit the phones. Don't hit the phones because we're going to hit Alan with the Shadow Squadron 32X special report. This is the third time this evening, so let's take it away.
Shadow Squadron is the opus magnum of the Sega 32X Overture. Forged by the skilled artisans at Sega, this interstellar masterpiece sought to harness the ancestral prowess of the 32S, beckoning players to a transcendent odyssey. Intergalactic ballet. The 32 augmented akin to a cosmic muse, elevated the visual narrative into the ethereal echelons of avant-garde artistry while maintaining a commendable focus on non-sexual thematic elements. Embarking upon the astral odyssey, denizens of the pixelated cosmos found themselves ensconced in the cockpit. Ensconced in the cockpit of the celestial chariot.
The denizens were ensconced. They would say that might be what they say in a sort of a language like English, but slightly different. That could be what they use in this special sci-fi world.
That's right. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan.
The gameplay unfolded as an orrery of precision, a dance with the astral forces that transcended the mundane boundaries of terrestrial gaming. Throughout this cosmic journey, the game maintains steadfast in its commitment to a narrative devoid of explicit sexual content. Yet, in the cosmic pantheons of critical discourse, the celestial luminance of Shadow Squadron was not immune to shadows of skepticism. Some, ensnared by the gravitational pull of unmet expectations, sought vaster astral expanse and more profound cosmic profundities, lamenting the perceived brevity of this intergalactic voyage. The absence of sexual themes, however, underscored the game's dedication to a narrative focused on celestial rather than carnal. Within the sacred scrolls of the 32X lore, Shadow Squadron persists as both a celestial paragon and nebulous enigma. The duality inscribed upon the astral archive of gaming annals, its legacy.
Annals.
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 Annals. People like it. Sega's Transcendent Odyssey, notably devoid of explicit sexual themes, is one of the best ever in 1995. Back to you, Rob.
Back to you, Alan. Thank you for that special report. We'll have certainly.
Somebody ripped my shirt on the way to work.
It's not work if you're not paid. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit It's the Arts. It's the Arts,
Yay,
ladies and gentlemen. We're doing It's the Arts. Alan, let's go ahead and hit us up with your the first slide of the evening. Of course, comes from Brett Warren. It's Brett Warren with Alan is some sort of hovering over me, and I've apparently been eaten by a beast, and Alan is saving me with the stick to keep us in check, that we make sure that we do listen to the callers, that we do look at the chat, and that we do respect that stick, Alan.
Yes, it is the arts, and people are sending the It's the Arts emoji into the chats. I don't know if that's what you call it in Twitch, but it is a little graphic that says the arts. And look at that. And I love how they captured. Oh, and it looks like I'm riding you like some sort of a steed.
Okay, let's go to the next one, which is that wonderful viewer, EGI2 viewer, who watches us with great regularity, Hambone Boosie. Hambone Boosie? Is it? It could be some sort of a Cajun name with the EGI2 Frame Gride. Of course, that is the sponsor of tonight and all EGI2 streams up until we do get another sponsor, which is, of course, the Sega Dreamcast Mech Combat game from Software with the medieval themes, Frame Gride. So thank you for this. It's beautiful. It's blue. It's white. It's EGI2 with Frame Gride in between Alan and
I love that.
Robby.
And it really captures the Alan and Robby of the EGI2 and the Frame Gride.
And the Frame Gride. So the Hambone Boosie, thank you so much for this. It's a beautiful. It's the arts. And go to the next slide, which of course is from Kimball Anderson with this abstract take, of course, on the Frame Gride. Some aspect of this is a Frame Gride inspired.
We love that.
It's Frame Gride inspired. It's, of course, you can see the frame that is griding in the foreground of the piece. It has, however, been abstracted, and then you see, of course, the orb that the frame grides, the griding for the Frame Gride is in the service of these orbs, Alan.
It is a beautiful abstract piece.
Several pieces. It's. I would say it's more stylized than abstract, Alan, because we do see the frame right in the griding right in the foreground is the Frame Gride.
Oh, there it is.
So this is a fantastic watercolor from Kimball Anderson's Frame Gride footage. Take it to the next slide, please. This is from Universe, and there's a note from Universe about the image that we're looking at right now, which is that this is somehow they typed in Robby Rackleff and Alan Resnick into an AI image generator, and this is the image that we receive.
What an interesting idea. I think.
So I assume that Alan, you are the man on the
bearded short
on the beard one, and I am the one with the red guitar.
And we are both.
And we've both been friends. and we've been friends for a long time. We've been bandmates, and now we have been on EGI 2's Game of the Year Awards 2022 Game of the Year Awards.
And the idea of being in a band with Robby would honestly be the thrill of my lifetime. I can't speak for Robby, but I think he would enjoy it as well.
Hold down your expectations and keep your options open, because the next slide of It's the Arts is here, and it is of course from Star Song.
Wow.
And this is a beautiful rendering of
Incredible.
the time that I tried to take Alan's head off by pulling on it as hard as I can
What a sweet
on
memory.
stage at Comic-Con in
Comic-Con.
2019 in beautiful downtown San Diego, California.
Yes,
we couldn't get the
yes.
head off, but we got the show. We got a show. It's not. We didn't get the show back, but we got a show.
Yes, and I think a bit of a blessing in disguise that you couldn't fatality my head, because now I just get to spend more time with my buddy Robby, and you get to spend more time with me. We don't get to go to Comic-Con, but we do get to talk about video games, and I feel fully healed, and my neck is a full mobility
And
back.
of course, Star Song works for Megatron.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have a beautiful. This is, of course, a poem. And if Alan, I was hoping that you would actually take a look at this poem and read it out it with the format that it is.
It is so damn small. I don't know if
you would go maybe closer to the program monitor, you would be able to see.
I'll try.
This beautiful. It's a beautiful poem. It's structured so interestingly, like a kind of almost a non-linear reading would be required of you to do it.
I don't know if my mic will reach. Okay. We perform our show standing in our corners, diametrically opposed. Back to you, Alan. Back to you, Robby. We get back to each other, holding our grudges, framing our grides. But when will we get back to one another? Amongst all the sirens, we find our Kuan, nestled in colonial New Jersey. Apologies spoken aloud, finally heard. After all, I'm just a Robby standing in front of an Alan, waiting for him, and then there's something on the monitor that says program, so I can't read the end of it. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan. And I think it says, I'm just Robby in front of Alan, waiting him to be programmed. Great. So thank you for that beautiful poem. Next up, we have another It's the Arts classic. It's a classic.
Thank you for that poem.
It's the Arts kind of a thing from Matt Pierce, who's showing off a very interesting thing where Alan has the glasses of wine.
Oh yes, that's when I was drinking wine.
His the candles that he describes, and I am there waiting on Alan to give us the news that we need, rather than the objects and the lifestyle that he apparently treasures over the truth in the news.
And I'm like, but you wouldn't drink it with me.
So thank you so much, Matt Pierce, for that. That is a beautiful, of course, drawing, hand-drawn art that you only see here on EGI 2's It's the Arts.
And we need to get to 1,000 followers for Robby to allow me to give away the sexual candle holder. We're stuck at 7 in a holding pattern on 791 followers.
791 followers, but I do believe that we can get there in the next 36 minutes, because we really need to get rid of that thing. And next up from It's the Arts is Laurel Lynn Lake, beautiful
friend of the show.
Again, another. This is so fascinating, Alan, because we do have the EGI 2's Frame Gride sponsorship has manifested in so many different ways, so many miraculous different ways for people to show off their EGI 2 spirit.
Yes.
And so this is Laurel Lynn Leak, who of course who does do the hard black line drawings that are sent to us many times. We do It's the Arts, and yet here is Laurel Lynn Leak doing something with Frame Gride that we have not seen before.
That's Frame
We
Gride.
saw a stylistic kind of watercolor thing, and this is perhaps something like a watercolor, but slightly different.
Yes, it is. It is unique and
And she
slightly
doubled-
different. I've never seen
she's-
anything
and it's
quite
been
like
doubled
that.
up.
Oh, it's a double exposed image of Frame Gride.
So
Laurel Lynn Leak, friend of
thank
the
you
show.
for
Thank you so
EGI
much.
2 sponsorship, Frame Gride.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Incredible work from Alan. Thank you, and we will be coming back. I believe we have one last EGI2 It's the Arts image, and that is, of course, from Dominic from PA. Dominic from PA, who, of course, called earlier in the show, but was also with us on the spreadsheet, which we did on Tuesday, December 5th. And you will remember, Alan, that we're unable to have our regular discourse about the spreadsheet due to some technical issues. But during the conversation that I had with Dominic, he mentioned that he had been playing Silent Hill 3 on the PlayStation 2. And we talked a little bit about how much he spent on Silent Hill 3 and how many times he spent playing it. And if you go closer to the screen, Alan, you can see that the answer to how many hours he's put into it is right there at the top of the memory card menu screen.
I think I see that. Oh.
And this would have been something that I would have maybe kept for the next time we do the spreadsheet live on EGI_2. But I felt like the artistry behind the taking a picture of a television with the Silent Hill 3 memory card displayed in such a way was artistic in and of itself.
It's quite beautiful. It's quite stunning. Thank you for sending that in.
So it's the arts, ladies and gentlemen. That was It's the Arts. Let's take one last quick break, and let's hit this. If you've been watching the show, you've known that we've recycled some of our breaks from previous shows that we did when a show we did was called Electronic Game Information, but now we are using the breaks from EGI2.
We're not supposed to do that.
We're not supposed to do it, but we did it anyway because we needed to bring so many hard-hitting pieces of information from the EGI2 2022 Game of the Year Awards and, of course, from our sponsor, FrameGrind. Let's take a quick break, and we will be back with the list. Wait, breaking news. This is the EGI 2's, the list is going to be, tonight is going to be the EGI 2 2003 Game of the Year Awards winners. The entirety, it was 2003 was a huge year, and we're going to have the entire year represented here on the EGI 2 2003 Game of the Year Awards list, and it starts right now. Dark Cloud 2 is on the list. Of course, you remember Dark Cloud is, we're talking about the ActRaiser game that I thought was ActRaiser Renaissance, but it was in fact Soul Crystal. Well, back in 2003, the ActRaiser 2-like game was Dark Cloud 2. Alan, take it away.
What is the theme? And what is the list? Looks new.
The list is of course we are still working on our way to get the list back into the similar format than we had before, but we are unfortunately only able to see the list in this physical state that it is now, which is on receipt printer that we picked up from where the receipt printer store.
And I do see. It looks like there's some sort of a new list right here.
Absolutely. So the list is, of course, having a tough time getting itself out, getting it sort of manifesting itself and pulling itself back together. But we do have the list here on EGI2. This is EGI2's 2003 Game of the Year list. So Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, of course, is on the list. Prince of Persia Sands of Time, of course, gets the 2003 Game of the Year award for the most.
It's moving.
For the most button, it's got the most. If there's one game with one button that you want to talk about for Prince of Persia: Sands for 2003, it's on the list. It's Prince of Persia: Sands of Time.
Wow.
So, Alan, what are people saying about Prince of Persia: Sands of Time? What are people saying on the list?
Prince of Persia. They just said Prince of Persia. Eraserhead Baby says Prince of Persia. Everyone says hi, Robbie. I think people love this new list.
Right. So Onimusha Tactics is on the list. Onimusha Tactics is, of course, the tactics. If you're thinking about frames, Alan, if you think about frames, you think about blocks, you think about
it's on the
bricks, you think about tactics. You think Final Fantasy Tactics is on the list. Well, guess what?
It's on the
Onimusha
list.
Tactics is on the list.
It's on the list twice.
Onimusha Tactics brings all of the characters from the beloved Onimusha games. That's Onimusha 1, Onimusha 2, Onimusha 3, and
Onimusha 4. It's on the list.
Onimusha 4
is on the list.
It's on the list.
Hey,
Onimusha 4 is on the list. Let's go ahead and hit the phones for the EGI 2003 Game of the Year Awards list for 2003. Alan,
I don't understand how the list is knowing what you say.
Next up on the list is Metal Arms Glitch in the System. Metal Arms Glitch in the System, of course, is a third-person action game with that broke all the rules on what you could expect from a third-person action game. Most people believe that the third-person action game genre, you needed to be a human being, and Metal Arms Glitch in the System said you can also be a Metaloid.
It's on the list.
And it's on the list. Jak 2 is on the list for the greatest award of the season for when it comes to Jak 2. In 2003, it was the list.
The list was on.
And of course, people are calling into the list. And Mountain Dew, if you're on the list, then we're looking for the Mountain Dew boost. It's right here. We have several bottles of Mountain Dew in studio right now. Mountain Dew, if you are out there hearing us now, we need to see the award that you are willing to give to Mountain Dew.
And they don't sponsor the show. They just tricked Robby into doing free advertising.
Game of the Year Awards. Unreal 2 The Awakening is, of course, on the list. Unreal 2 Awakening was one of the first-person shooter games to have a level where you didn't do any shooting in the first person, and it's on the list.
I feel like a sugary drink tricked us.
Freelancer is on the list. Freelancers, of course, is a fly-around, looking all the directions kind of game, and it was a game that came out in 2003. If you're a fan of Freelancer, if you're a fan of Wing Commander or Metal Arms Glitch in the System, you might find it surprising that it is on the list.
Robbie, what is the list?
The list it's the 2003 Game of the Year EGI 2's 2003 Game of the Year Awards.
Oh, these are 2003.
Absolutely. So these are the Game of the Year awards that EGI 2 would have done in 2003 had we been on twitch.tv /EGI_2, and it's a voice. If someone said, "Is it voice activated?" It is voice activated because the the list has to be voice activated because otherwise you can't read out the list.
Right. Hi, Alan. Listen, I've been.
Next up, let's go ahead and hit the phones and see what people are saying. It's time to. The hype train is here. The hype train it's upon us, and the list is now. We have limited time to. What does that mean? We have limited time to earn. Let's get those emotes into whatever that means.
Is this on the list?
2003's. It's the list. Is this the Mountain Dew boost, Alan? Is this the Mountain?
Robbie,
we must now do Mountain Dew.
Robbie, I don't
do
want
the
to
do,
talk about
Alan.
Mountain Dew. Hold on. The list is talking to me.
And the list is talking to Alan Resnick, so let's go ahead and speak to Alan Resnick here on the list. Oh, we have a phone call before we hit the list. Before we hit Alan on the street, let's hit the phones. Caller, you're on the air with EGI2. Welcome to the list of 2003 Game of the Year awards.
This is interesting.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's been wonderful to see the segments repeated several times because it's been funnier each time.
And people will say, well, why did you do that? And of course, because if you've stuck with the whole show throughout the entirety of these last hours, then you know that there are people coming in that did not get to see the segments from before. And so we are doing it because it is EGI 2 Stream 3. We did the stream 3 times for 3 hours. One stream, EGI 2's first stream. We got 50% on the hype train. We got to get those, whatever that means, going.
Let's go. Let's get hype.
What is that? If you've got the ability to press buttons, press as many buttons as you can. Keep pressing them until that 50% goes up to 100%.
Robbie.
But caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm Danny. I'm also calling from Philly.
Philadelphia, beautiful, the city of brotherly love. And of course, Alan, you remember what I was saying earlier about Philadelphia, which is that it is one of the few cities in America with a working streetcar system.
Robbie,
That's correct. The trolley system.
It's exactly the SEPTA trolley system. It's a fantastic trolley system. Up until recently, one of the last remaining mass transit systems where you could not use a credit card to buy a ticket at a kiosk.
That's correct, but now it's like these fancy cards that you have to tap, and you can use your phone too.
We're tapping on the hype train. The SEPTA train is like the hype train, Alan.
We have 80% of a
80% of a hype train coming in, going out. And what are your thoughts on the 2003 Game of the Year awards?
I think we should pay Alan.
I think it looks pretty good. I really enjoyed Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, but I am not seeing Silent Hill 3 on there, which I'm kind of confused about because.
No, Silent Hill 3 is on the list because
Oh, what is it? I'm sorry, I'm not looking
Silent
at
Hill
the
3
TV,
is on
but
the list.
I'm
It's down here.
It's not on
you
the
can read
list.
the list. It's right here. We don't usually show
wonderful.
Thank
don't
you,
see
Silent Hill
anything
3. Of
about
course,
that on
if you were ever wondering what happened to the daughter of the first Silent Hill game, well, Silent Hill 3 gives you the opportunity to revisit that character and her storyline and her traveling back to that desolate, wasted town in her own way.
Robbie, can I go to
That's
the dentist?
correct. Cheryl and Alessa, both of them.
Cheryl?
You talking about Cheryl?
I'm sorry, why are we talking about Cheryl?
Why are they talking about
Cheryl and Alessa, they're in Silent Hill 3.
Cheryl's in Silent Hill 3?
I'll have to double check. That doesn't sound right. Cheryl doesn't usually do stuff like that.
All right.
Well, that's
thank you
what
for
I
your
heard.
Call. Thank you for your call because we have to keep going because 2003 was, of course,
go back to the list.
20 years ago to the day. We've got the hype train is on level 2. We got 55%, 420, 419, 418, 417. Hit all those buttons. Let's see what happens. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne is on the list for the EGI 2's 2003 Game of the Year Awards. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Alan. Let's see what the list is saying. Alan, phone.
Yeah.
Who's on the phone?
Normally the list doesn't make sense, but tonight
Hello.
it makes a lot of sense to me.
Caller, where are you calling from? Who are you hyping? The hype train is going.
The hype train is going down.
The numbers are going up, and the hype train is going down.
The hype train is now at 55%.
Okay.
It is a level 2
apparently, Cheryl said Cheryl was in Silent Hill 3. Alan, of course, was spending a lot of time with Cheryl while we were off the air. When our previous show was canceled, and Alan went and hung out with Cheryl instead of I was figuring out how to get to the EGI Twitch.2 EGI 3.2. Caller.
Yes, I remember.
So what are your thoughts on 2003 and the Game of the Year Awards for 2003? Because that was 20 years ago. So we imagine that, of course, people's hype is down to 14%.
We're losing hype.
We're
Oh, but
losing
it's a
hype,
level
so we
3
got to
hype
keep
train.
that
It's a
hype
level
going.
3
Hit
hype.
all the buttons. Let's go.
Let's get that hype.
Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic.
Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic is 100% on the list, but not for the reason that you would think. You would think maybe Star Wars: Knights of the Republic is on the list because it was the best game of the year. In many ways, it was the best game of the year. In fact, but it is on the.
It's not on here.
It's on the EGI 2's 2003 Game of the Year award for most ship.
Most ship award.
So if you're a gamer, if you're a gamer and you're looking for ship, you can't go wrong with Knights of the Old Republic. You spend a lot of time on the ship. You spend a lot of time looking at the ship, and it's the most ship in 2003's Game of the Year awards. Thank you for your call. We got another call coming in right now with the EGI 2's list. 2003 Game of the Year awards. We're back up to 24%. Somehow we went down from 55 to 14, now 24.
24.
Great. Caller, you on the?
Whoa! What happened? We got 100%.
We got 100. I don't know what that
What does
means,
that
but it
mean?
happened, and it's happened, and
It's sending
so
sort
we got
of
100%,
sort of
and
confetti all over
so
the
we got
chat.
100
okay.
points, and then we got a 2003. The year
level
2003 for the list. Golden Sun, The Lost Age is on the list. If you're a Golden Sun fan, then you know about The Lost Age, and you know that it doesn't get the age doesn't get any older or younger than The Lost Age because you don't see the age, Alan.
That's right.
So you're on the list.
That's so
Caller, you're on the
crazy.
air with EGI 2003's Game of the Year awards. It's a list.
Yeah, I've been reading the list. I'm here to join the union. I've never joined a union before. I'm here to join it.
We can't have a union if people aren't getting paid. So thank you for your call, and
fine.
We'll keep going through the phone calls because we do have more lists to get to for EGI 2's Game of the Year awards in 2003. We did 2022 3 times, and now we're doing 2003 1 time.
Oh, cool.
I think I would like to a little health, a little of the health care that the EGI. I would like some of the EGI health care. Can I?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like a little bit of that
Joe is
too.
on the list. Beautiful Joe, if you
check.
like side-scrolling games, if you
don't think
like
it's on
single-player beat-em-ups, Beautiful Joe could be the game for you. It's on the list for 2003's EGI 2 Game of the Year awards, and it's on. It also would have not for being the best game. It's not for being even the best beat-em-up. But Alan, we did an award for this in the 2022 Game of the Year awards, which of course was the beautiful, which was the hard black lines between colors.
I don't see that
So
anywhere
Beautiful
on here.
Joe wins the EGI 2 2003 Game of the Year awards for hard black lines. 100%. Now we're 65%. James, let's go to the next
producer
caller,
James,
and we'll
and
see.
Luke,
Producer James,
co-producer Luke.
if you know James, you know he's got a heart of gold. He'll kill each and every one of you to please his family. Back home in the great state of Alabama, Alan.
And how much have you been paying?
Don't curse.
James?
So we're talking to James, and we're not talking to James. Who are we talking to right now?
Hi.
Hello, you're on the air with EGI 2's 2003 Game of the Year awards. It's the list.
Wow. I feel
Great.
so special.
Yes. So what?
Yeah.
What's on the list?
Oh, yeah. What's on the list?
Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising is on the list. If you're a fan, we talked about Onimusha Tactics. We talked
not
about
on there,
Final
Robby.
Fantasy. Did we talk about Final Fantasy Tactics Advance?
We talked about something tactical.
Final Fantasy Tactics
Hold on, let me
Advance
read-
is on the
let me
list.
go back.
You talked about
Onimusha
frame
Tactics is on
grind.
the list, but also
I think
we
I
have
heard
one
frame grind
tactical
at least
turn-based
once.
Games. Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising is on the list.
Let me check. Now,
Yeah.
Jack 2.
So caller, who are you? Where are you
Onimusha
calling? And do you
4.
know what? Can you hit all your
Tactics
buttons
is
and
on
make
there.
sure that 65 goes up to whatever 140%?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And of course,
I
caller,
will get
thank
that
you for your
at
call.
that
We're going to
percentage for you.
Give a quick shout out to the EGI 2 sponsor of the Game of the Year Awards 2022 and now 2003. The list, Frame Grind.
Is that Graham Grind?
And if
Grim
we have a
Grind. And
sponsor,
it's Grim
why do
Grind.
Yeah, Frame Grind.
No, it's
Frame Grind? Frame Grind?
Grimdawn. It's
Frame
Grimdawn
Grind?
on the list. Is
Frame Grind?
Alan, is Grimdawn
Hold
on the
it's saying
list?
Something. I'll check.
Yeah, Frame Grind.
It's saying some crazy stuff.
Grimdawn is Grimdawn.
This is crazy.
Grimdawn
Robby,
is
I
not
think the
Grim.
list is broke.
Yeah, Frame Grind? Frame Grind?
Grind is
Frame
Grim
Grind? Frame Grind?
Grimdawn is Grim. So if you remember the face of your father, you know that the Grim.
Frame grind.
Get on the Grim, stay in the grind, keep the frame wide open.
Frame grind.
Okay, thank you for your call. Let's move on. It's the 2000.
Yeah. No. Honestly,
Oh,
I think.
something.
Yeah. Mega Man Legends is the best game of the year.
Mega Man Legends is the game of the year for 2003. It wouldn't make any sense because I'm pretty sure Mega Man Legends came out in the year, and Alan, you know this better than almost anyone else. Mega Man Legends year is 1998 or 1990.
I don't think I should say.
7.
I don't think I should say anything about that.
So the hype train is stuck at
Why?
65%. Caller, thank you for your call.
You got a problem with Walnut? You got a problem with Walnut?
We got a Grim. Caller, we got a Grim.
Oh, frame grind.
Thank you for your call, and we're on the. We've got Nachos are in the chat. Is that Nachos or wow?
I'm seeing Nachos. This is not.
Sorry,
This
hype
is
train
Scott.
success. We've got the hype train success. Whatever that all that banner opened up. The CSS is obviously doing the thing that it's designed to do because we're now up to 74%, down from 60.
74.
10 subs, 2000. It's 2003 Game of the Year awards. It's the list.
2003. I think the list that I think they should remaster Manhunt should definitely be on the list. 2003 Manhunt is on the list.
Manhunt is absolutely on the. If you're looking for men, if you're looking to hunt, then Manhunt is the game for you. And it's 2003. It's on the 2003 Game of the Year
And
awards.
we need better security, and we should. I suggest. I have a suggest. AB Security Solutions. I suggest security. Look. Watch after Alan.
So if you ever wanted to kill an unsuspecting person with a plastic bag, Manhunt could be for you. It's on the list. Thank you for your call. We've got to keep moving along because we have a lot of games to get through. It's been 2000. It's 2003. It's 20 years in the. 20 years ago was the year 2003, and one of the game, and we had the game of the year. We did not have the EGI 2, but we did have Game of the Year awards because the games came out, and you must give them awards.
And where, Robbie? Quick cue from A. Where do the bits go? Do you know what that means?
Where do the bits go?
Thank you for your call, caller. We've got to keep going with the EGI.
But we
2,
need
2003. If you're coming to us live from the Video Game Awards, have we been rated by? If we can get rated by the Video Game Awards right now, that would be great because this is the big one, Alan. It's Panzer Dragoon Orta is on the list, and if you order, caller, who are we talking to? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from London. This is Lionhead Studios' famed designer, Peter Molyneux.
Peter Molyneux is on the list. If you're on the list with Peter Molyneux, then you know it's got to be a good list. And Peter, this is a wonderful time to be speaking to you because I have news for you, which is Panzer Dragoon Orta is on the list. 2003's Panzer Dragoon Orta is on the list, and you ought to be paying attention.
Oh, of course.
Because
that
it
game
ought
has
to
so
be
many
getting the award
relevant
for
and wonderful
most.
aspects, but they don't have the thing that I'm going to release. Let me tell you something. I have some unique game features, something that's never before seen. And you'll see it in the next Game of the Year in 2004.
Thank you for your call, Peter. Good luck out there in the Grim. And with the next caller we have coming in to tell us about what is on, talking about what's on the list, Alan.
It's saying something. Pay the list. Robbie, do you pay the list?
It's 2003's EGI 2's 2003 Game of the Year Awards. It's the list. Caller, you're on the air with EGI 2.
Robbie, you should pay the
Game
list.
of the Year Awards for 2003. What's on the list? What are your thoughts about Panzer?
Yeah.
You ought to be given, Alan. You ought to be.
Yeah,
you ought to
Brian
be given
from Louisville,
me
Kentucky.
your thoughts on 2003.
Right. I want to throw in Spellforce. The first Spellforce, I don't really like it as much as the second one, but I'll throw Spellforce on there from PC for the PC.
So if we talk about Stealth Force, it's 2003. Stealth Force, if you're looking for a way to get around without being seen, stealth. You could also be going with. If you're looking for stealth in 2003, you could also be looking for Splitter Cell. So you could be looking. You could give it an award to Stealth Force for most stealth forced, or you could give the stealth forced stealth to Splinter Cell.
Can I run back in
Chaos
time
Theory.
and give it to Hogs of War or Dragon Force for the Sega Saturn? Also,
Dragon Force of the Sega Saturn, of course, came out in 1998, but we will, in fact, consider it for future lists for Game of the Year awards for other. Because, and Alan, I keep telling you this, and I tell you this over and over, that we cannot limit necessarily. We need to ask ourselves the question, which is that should we be limiting ourselves to the games that came out in a given year when we give a 2003 to 2022 Game of the Year awards?
Eraserhead Baby says, labor is entitled to all it creates. Back to you, Robby.
Back to you, Alan. And, of course, Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne. Caller, are you still on the air?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm listening. I'm pulling in all this
We're
information.
gonna
Back
take
to
a
you
second
guys,
to consider. Just close. Everyone, just chill out for a second and close your eyes. Take some deep breaths and say Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne over and over and over again, and keep saying it because it's once you kind of get into the mode of it, then you understand where the list is going and what we're going to be doing going forward with the list.
I can't get Dragon Force out of my head. That was one of the best games I ever played. Hey, you guys are doing a great job out there. Just got to tell you that.
All right, we're out here. We're doing a great job. We're doing a great job, and sometimes the work is the reward. If you ask me, and if we're talking a little bit about it's a big show. It's a big society.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Boris Johnson and David Cameron and all of the wonderful prime ministers of our great neighbor to the over the water and over the air, and so they were on the list. And let's go ahead and get to our next caller. Caller, you're on the air
Robby, I don't think the
with
list is working.
EGI 2's 2003 Game of the Year Awards.
Is Freelancer the sequel to Starlancer?
It's Freelancer. That's a great question. Alan, you're the Starlancer expert, so why don't you take this question and answer it as best you can?
I think I'm gonna. I don't think I should answer that.
Because you're an employee?
Again, I'll say it's hard to be an employee when you're not being paid, and it's easy to be a friend when you're just doing work for the sake of being here with someone you care about.
But I'm a little confused. You said I was. At first, I thought I was a guest on your new show, and then you said you were hiring me, but you haven't paid me, and you did make me do all your laundry and to do a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do.
Primal, of course, is on the list. Primal is a 2003 game. If you've ever been wondering what that game from 2003 is for the PlayStation 2, it's Primal. And Primal is on the list. Caller, are you experienced at all with the third-person action adventure game Primal? Or
I've never played Primal.
You have played Primal, so you know about the different animals that you can be. Alan, if you could give us your thoughts on Primal, or share your Primal thoughts with the viewer.
Healthcare is another thing that's been on my mind. I've heard many stories about people struggling with medical bills. I would love to see a doctor. I think we could push for healthcare coverage that we breaking the bank.
Okay, well, so we are not going to be doing. People are using the big word that I think that we all know from the papers these days. But the fact of the matter is that if we had what the thing that people are saying that we should have, then we're going to be taking away our ability as host and correspondent.
Robby,
to communicate
thinking about the
directly to one
papers.
another.
Thinking about the papers, can I share some funny video game news?
Absolutely. Funny video game news is back. We're doing funny video game news on the list. So take it away with your funny video game. And who are you? Where are you calling from? And
I'm Adam from Chicago.
Adam from Chicago, the city that never sleeps. Take it away.
Martin Scorsese, he said he saw the new Marvel movie, and he
which
said it
Marvel
wasn't a movie. He said the Marvels, I believe.
The Marvels. Okay.
And he said it wasn't a movie. He said it was 0 movies. But he said, I played Immortality, and that's 3 movies.
Can you say it again?
Can you tell the whole funny? This is video. This is the funny video game moves. Is it funny movie moves, or is it funny?
No. The video game immortality is like made up of movies. Is the
Right.
thing that I'm making a joke out.
Right. So it's
Martin
kinda-
Scorsese
Alan,
said the
if
Marvel.
I know you're a big fan of the dark pictures anthologies.
No comment.
So Martin Scorsese about the Marvel. There's 3 Marvels, and there's 3. So he was saying there's 3 Marvels.
You said the Marvels
movies.
was no
There's
movies.
Miss
Was
Marvel.
no
There's
movies.
3 Miss Marvels.
I want to hear the joke. I love
No,
jokes.
I
I want to
understand.
hear a funny joke.
I
Let's hear
want
it.
to understand.
Okay, so say it, and we'll just listen.
Martin Scorsese said that the new movie, The Marvels, was not a movie. It wasn't cinema. It was no movie. But the video game Immortality, that was 3 movies.
Because there's 3 chapters to immortality. Now that's funny video game news.
That's so good. Yeah. Yay.
So that's funny video game news. Thank you for your call, and we got to go back, but we got to go back to the list, Alan, because the list. We still have a few more games to get to on the list. The Lord of the
Back to you, list.
Back to you, list. We are back to the list with Lord of the Rings, the third Lord of the Ring, not the Third Age. Sorry, got confused, Alan, because of course 2003, 2023, the number 3, Lord of the Rings. There's 3 books and movies in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, so it's you have to be forgiving of me for saying the Third Age when I was in fact saying that the Return of the King.
That's what threw me off.
The Return of the King is on the list for the most, for the least. It's an award for the least use of the number 3 in a trilogy game, and at the end of a game that's the end of a trilogy. Although there was only 2 from Snowblind, Project Snowblind. No, Storm Box. The people that made, of course, Demon Age also made the 2 Towers and the Lord of the Rings Return of the King, and I believe that they also did the Third Age, but the Third Age did not. It came out in 2005, 2004.
Robby.
Caller, you're on the air with EGI 2 2003's Game of the Year awards. What are you saying? It wasn't Snow Crash. That's Project Snow Crash. That was the game that was supposed to be called. I think it was called originally Deus Ex Triads. Alan, you're the Deus Ex expert, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on what game Project Snow Crash was, of course, the Philip K. Dick. No, it was not the Philip K. Dick. Snow Crash is the other one, and
Project Snowblind.
Project Snowblind that's the Deus Ex Triads game, but then the game that came from the Demon Stone and 2 Towers, the developers of Snow. It's
Yeah.
Mountain? Something with snow in it, isn't it? Is it cold?
Those Lost Planet has snow in it.
Lost Planet, of course, is not on the list, although if we were to do a Lost Planet list, I think Lost Planet would be on the list. Lost Planet 2, Lost Planet
You
3.
could do a whole list just on Lost
We
Planet.
could probably just do a whole list on Lost Planet, Alan.
Can we pencil that in? Is that
We can not. Well, I got.
Alan? Do you have a pencil?
Currently,
He doesn't
don't
give me
have a
pencil.
because all I've got is the table, which is also, I don't know if you noticed, is a dry erase board, and we have a obligation to finish the 2003 Game of the Year awards here on EGI_2.
What's on the back side of the board?
It's silver.
Nope. Oh.
Okay, so Chaos Legion is on the list. It's the Game of the Year. 2003's Game of the Year award for Chaos Legion goes to Chaos Legion for being the game that looks like several other games of that same kind that are not Kessen or the...
Was that Tekken?
No, Kessen. Kessen is, of course, a game that lots of people on screen at the same time. You're hitting them as hard as you can. The Kessen also did real-time strategy, mixing with the hit them all the time, just like the Hyrule Warriors type of game. And they also did
RTS like the Chaos Legion Warhammer 40K games.
No.
Right?
So it's basically, if you took the games that got a lot of people, you're hitting them all the time, you're hitting them all around with Chaos Legion. It's like the game that Kessin adds the aspect of Dynasty Warriors. So Chaos
And
Legion it gets the most Dynasty Warriors award for the 2003 Game of the Year awards.
And that's
go
why
ahead,
you hit
Al.
guys in Tekken. Thank you, Robbie. I really appreciate it.
Back to you. Who is it?
Back to you, Robbie.
Back to you, caller.
Oh yeah. My name's Tim.
Back
Nice
to
to meet
Tim,
you, Alan.
And congratulations for helping us through to get that most important award for most Dynasty Warriors, most non-Dynasty Warriors Dynasty Warriors game, which of course was Chaos Legion for the Game of the Year Awards 2003.
Thank you, Robbie. I really like your shirt.
Thank you, Tim, and have a happy holiday season. And I hope that all of your Santa dreams. I hope Santa brings you
season's blessings upon you. No, yeah.
Blessings and blessings upon all of us, especially the first night of Hanukkah, Alan.
I
Back
hope
to
you all get copies of Frame Guide in your stocking.
I hope we get the Spin the Dreidel and Frame Guide, sponsored by Frame Guide. So all the dreidel spins throughout the world for this wonderful first blessed night of Hanukkah will be sponsored by Frame Guide, and every child that spins the dreidel will get 1 to how many sides on the dreidel is 8 sides, so 1 to 8 frames for griding.
And Alan, you look great.
Alan, thanks to you for the main shot button, and we have a couple more. We have Mega Man and Bass is on the list, of course. Caller, thank you for your call. We're going to go ahead
Mega Man
and take
X?
What?
Mega Man X?
Mega Man and Bass for the Game Boy Advance. So, of course, Bass is on the list and Mega Man is on the list, and they're together on the Game Boy Advance for the first time as a non-numbered Mega Man and Bass game.
Like the Battle Network games?
No, just Bass. Thank you for your call.
Just
we gotta go to the next
thank
caller.
you.
We have to go to the next caller.
No,
and we
thank
have to
you,
keep to
Robbie.
2003. Thank you. Back to you, Tim. Stay safe out there in it's this holiday season, because there's a lot of people out there who are going to be trying to sell you copies of Siren when you should be getting copies of Kuon. That's a callback to a previous stream. And in 2003, we have, of course, one final game to give an award to, which is Piano 3.
Back to you, Robbie.
Who is this caller? You're on the air with EGI 2. We're giving our final 2003 Game of the Year award to Piano 3.
Piano. Oh, well, okay. This is Scott from Pittsburgh.
Hey, Scott from Scott?
Yeah, it's Scott from Pittsburgh.
So Pittsburgh, of course, is a classic American city. A big Mr. Rogers fan. You see a lot of Pittsburgh in the Mr. Rogers episodes. He's running around. He's driving in electric cars. He's
helping everybody.
But he had a lot of boxy friends. There are a lot of boxy friends in Pittsburgh, as I recall.
There was, back to you, Robbie. But I wanted to make a mention of, did SSX3 make the list? Back to you, Robbie.
SSX3 is not on the list, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Scott from Pittsburgh, that we could not. Silent Hill 3 is on the list. Piano 3 is on the list. Shin Megami Tensei 3 is on the list. And,
well, at least there are a lot of 3s on the list. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of 3s on the list. A lot of 2s on the list. Sonic Advance 2, Dark Cloud 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, Max Payne 2, Advance Wars 2, Soul Calibur 2, and...
I was also curious about, I tuned in very late. Is there any way we could do a recap?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do a quick recap of the EGI 2 2022 Game of the Year Award. So let's go ahead to the top of the show. Thank you for joining us for the list. Let's just do everything as quickly as possible. So let's go one by one. Neon White, Most Jumps, Game Without What's Act, Soul Cresta, the Most West, Evil West, Most Bumps, Callisto Protocol. These are the 2022 Game of the Year Awards. Most Holes went to Scorn. Most Chunks went to Proteus.
Neon White, yes.
Scott, I'm trying to get through all these slides for you. Best use of consonants throughout the main story, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Wettest game went to Gotham Knights. Was Card Shark with the black lines between the colors with Beautiful Joe for 2003. Just Anacrusis, we figured out what that was. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Next is next to get Gloomwood Early Access. Now, we did the funny video game news, so let's go to the front of that. So we did funny video game news. Forspoken, of course, spoken for. No thanks. Next one was Redfall. Instead of Redfall, I'd rather fall back on old habits of playing early arcane titles like Art Fatalist. Thank you, Antonio Guterres, for all the world work that you do. Queen Elizabeth, of course, died recently, and on her deathbed asked what the FAKK2 in Heavy Metal FAQ2 said, and it was, in fact, the one thing that she wanted to know before she went to her creator with peace in her heart, and we know now that it was Federation assigned ketogenic kill zone to the 2nd level, and now that's funny video game news. And then caller Scott, you do a funny video game news.
I don't have much funny video game news that I think I could.
Who's the mayor of Pittsburgh? Make this easy for you. Who's the mayor of Pittsburgh?
I don't pay attention to politics, Robbie.
Okay,
Not even our
what
mayor.
Did the mayor of Pittsburgh say about Pokemon Sapphire and Ruby on the Game Boy Advance?
I think they said that they were going to try and ban Pokemon in the city of Pittsburgh, and everybody booed them.
It would be a fact about the video game that was said by a public figure. That's the funny video game news. So instead of what you just said, you would say like the Pokemon Sapphire and Ruby link cable. I bought a link cable so I could play Pokemon Sapphire and Ruby with my friends, and that would have been the mayor of Pittsburgh in 2003. Thank you for your call, Scott.
I think that is what he said.
Let's go wrap up this last bit of the repeating. That we're doing it for the 4th time now, so it's not stream. It's still stream 3. But Alan, why don't you go ahead and give us your Shadow Squadron report for the 32X?
Hello?